The City Commission, July 5th, 2022. Please take a seat if you may. And would like to begin tonight's meeting. Thank you all for being here tonight. Can I ask the members of the commission to please find their seat on the dais? And so for those of you who are here for the first time, we welcome you all, of course, to our beautiful city. We usually begin with the Pledge of Allegiance and some announcements, and then we follow them with presentations. These presentations are community service in which we recognize individuals, organizations, or events, and try to encourage others to support those people or events as they come across this month. So before we begin, I would ask you all to please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Please be seated. On a sad note, I have a couple of people whose names I'd like to recognize tonight. First, a lady named Shirley Carlson. Shirley Carlson has been a longtime tenants advocate with regard to the Fort Lauderdale Housing Authority. She recently passed away. And also a very dear friend, Luis Castillo Oliveira, who died suddenly this past couple of days. Person who I've known for many years, who's very active in the South Middle River Civic Association, Council of Civic Associations, has just been a very, very wonderful person. I personally wedded him to his spouse a few months ago, and I'm sure this is going to be a sad, sad loss to his spouse. So if we could just have a moment of silence in recognition of their passing. Okay, thank you so much. Now I would ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Commissioner Moritas?
Here.
Commissioner Glassman?
Here.
Commissioner McKenzie? Not present at the moment. Vice Mayor Sorensen?
Here.
Mayor Trentalles?
Here. And we have a quorum, so there's just one agenda announcement. There's going to be a walk-on. This is regarding a motion approving an agreement for the purchase of third-party workers' compensation administration and medical bill services. We do exciting things. And license agreement with Corvell Enterprise Comp. This will be in the amount of $1,320,000.73. Excuse me, and $753. Otherwise, there are no other changes. So do I have an approval of the minutes and the agenda?
So moved. Second.
Okay. There's been a motion and a second to the approval of the minutes and the agenda, so please call the roll.
Vice Mayor Sorensen?
Yes.
Commissioner Moritas?
Yes.
Commissioner Glassman?
Yes.
Commissioner McKenzie is not present. Mayor Trentalles?
Yes, and so the motion to approve the minutes and the agenda has now passed. So now we move on to our presentations. We have a few tonight, and our first begins with Dashiell Sears, the Regional Director of Fast Track Cities Institute. Mr. Sears, are you here? There you are. You want to come up to the podium? Yes. Good evening, sir.
Good evening. I did have a presentation prepared with a slide. I was wondering if I'm able to present that or if that's available. Let's try that one. FL presentation PowerPoint deck. Yes. Well, good evening, distinguished members of the commission. My name is Dashiell Sears. I usually go by Dash, and I am the North American Regional Director for Fast Track Cities. under the Fast Track Cities Institute, as well as our sister organization, the International Association of Providers of AIDS Care. I'm here today with a resolution for the city to consider to join the Fast Track Cities Network as part of our 400 plus international cities dedicated to ending HIV by 2030. So Fast Track Cities, in a nutshell, we are seeking to end HIV by 2030 through city multilateralism. Our city network is a peer education network between all cities that are involved as signed the resolution or signed the Paris declarations. We want to put people at the center of everything that we do, and we want to address the causes and risks of vulnerability and transmission through civil, political, social, economic, and cultural life that raise new HIV transmissions. Unfortunately, Fort Lauderdale and the Fort Lauderdale region is number 2 in the nation for new HIV case rates, just behind Miami-Dade. Part of what we want to do for Fort Lauderdale is address the social determinants of health that continue new HIV cases at a disparate rate. We are seeing huge rises in cases in youth and people of color, as well as intersectional identities. So for our calculus for success, Fast Track Cities incorporates political will, community engagement, public health leadership, data-driven and equity-based planning, health system and capacity building, stigma, discrimination elimination, quality of life and quality of care assessments, and best practice sharing amongst all of our cities internationally, as well as domestically. In the state of Florida, you would be the 3rd jurisdiction to join behind Miami and Tampa. We also work with providing technical assistance with other stakeholders in cities. We also address facilitating consensus building and coordination among stakeholders, and providing capacity building support for clinicians and service providers. So it wouldn't just be the city and the commission addressing this, it would be all stakeholders in the HIV landscape. The city commission, the city being one of them, including Broward County Health Department, the community centers. Today I spoke with the World AIDS Museum Director Terry Dyer and Mr. Kessler at the Stonewall Museum and Archives. They're on board. I've also been speaking with additional stakeholders from the Planning Council, from various planning councils, and with various clinicians as well. Now, Fort Lauderdale and Broward County are part of the Ending the HIV Epidemic network, which came from the Trump administration through the CDC. It's part of the first new budgetary items directed towards HIV. What we do is work together in alignment with EHE jurisdictions. We want to support their planning, provide resources, and be supplemental towards what those EHE planning councils work on. But the other end of the equation is discussing with cities at the local level, what can cities do to help support their EHE plans, and what can cities do that are outside of the state and outside of national programs to address new HIV cases and to keep people in care. Right now, it's not looking very good for a good 30 to 40% of the population that's currently trying to respond to these HIV cases. The response at the federal level is not adequate, but we're working to improve it. And finally, we want to integrate Fort Lauderdale into a peer cities consortium. Fort Lauderdale is special in that you do not have your own public health department. You are under a county, much like places like Key West, Palm Springs, Provincetown, Rehoboth Beach, and West Hollywood. You are also a legacy city, having a high quotient of LGBT residents, not having a health department, but having a long history of having institutions and community understand stigma, discrimination, and have developed resources on their own to fight HIV. So part of this would also be a learning exchange. Things that work here would love to be shopped around to other cities internationally, as well as any kind of questions or insight into other cities that we could adopt here. I want to be able to facilitate that and work with the city and work with your stakeholders to address that. And the goal would be to build responses, build different types of out-of-the-box planning and wheels that other cities of similar size and similar context can also use. You have in front of you a copy of the resolution that I would like to present for consideration to join the Fast Track Cities initiative. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sears. So, in a nutshell, what is the ask?
The ask is for Fort Lauderdale, for the commission to sign on to join the Fast Track Cities initiative through signing the resolution. Beyond that, I would love to do a workshop with your community and build a Fast Track Cities dashboard. And then after that, it's whatever Fort Lauderdale would like to do with it. The more you put into it, the more you get out of it. But I would be around to answer questions and work with community stakeholders on identifying gaps, barriers, and opportunities to push to lessen HIV transmissions and eventually end it by 2030.
So, as a member of the LGBT community and having lived through these, through the history of HIV since the early 80s, I've seen, as others have, the efforts that have been made to try to minimize the spread of HIV. And I applaud your efforts tonight to bring to our community's attention a further initiative to try to find ways to further curb the spread of HIV, the HIV virus. I don't know what the solution is. I don't know if you know what the solution is. But I personally would agree to partner with you, and perhaps the City Commission would agree as well, to do whatever it takes to prevent the further spread of HIV. Fort Lauderdale, in particular, has numerous programs and institutions that have addressed HIV, between the hospital system, the healthcare system, and the education system. You mentioned the AIDS Museum. You also, there are also other organizations that continue to operate and prosper in terms of trying to assist people in the education and healthcare of HIV. And so this city in particular has a long history of HIV awareness and impact. Many of my friends have died of HIV. And it's been a terrible history here in South Florida. For you to say that it's the epicenter of the HIV infection is not news to us, to any of us, no one here in the room. And whatever efforts that you can make that we can join in, I certainly would love to be a participant. Again, I can't commit the city, but if the City Commission wants to participate in whatever those efforts are, depending upon what the ask is, we're certainly open-minded to doing whatever we can to try to finally defeat and reach your 2030 goal. Thank you. Anyone have any questions or comments?
Mayor, I do, only in that this is an unusual presentation. This doesn't follow our typical presentations of what happens at this point in the meeting, because it's asking, but we haven't had a chance to really even study it. I don't know if staff has looked at what our responsibilities would be and how those would be delineated. Typically at this point in the meeting, we get a proclamation and we're recognizing someone in the city, or we're recognizing an agency, or we're recognizing an event. Not that I don't think that this is worthy, and I commend you for your work on this. This is just a little bit out of the ordinary for us in terms of process and protocol. So I just want to make sure that we're vetting it properly and we know exactly what we're doing. If we were to, I don't know if there's a sense of urgency to this, or how long these fast track cities.
There is a sense of urgency, but the resolution says to involve Fort Lauderdale and other municipalities in the United States to globally share best practices and engage in bi-directional exchanges that seek to improve the rights of all LGBTQ plus communities with regard to HIV. So, it's generic enough that I personally would sign something like this. But again, that's why I asked at the beginning, what is the ask? And the ask is just basically to be a welcoming, embracing community in terms of trying to educate people to prevent HIV spread. Is that kind of what we're looking at here?
That's correct.
Okay.
Well, Mayor, one comment I have when I looked at this and I looked at your partnering organizations, I think I'd like to see maybe a little bit more local. I know it's a global initiative, but we do have a lot of local groups. I mean, I just went to the AIDS Healthcare Foundation. They just opened a new facility in my district at Broward Health. So, and I know they do a lot globally also. So maybe just to put a little bit more of an impact behind this, maybe we could talk about something we can do locally to be a little bit more proactive and educate more.
Mayor, I think this is great. I support it. I think it makes sense to partner with them.
Here you go.
Well,
He's signing it.
there you
Uh-oh,
go.
Commissioner Glassman.
I'm fine. I'm
Get
just,
nervous.
there you go.
There you
It's-
go.
There you
Just like that.
I'm just a process kind of guy. So if there's something that's not on the agenda and the public hasn't seen it, and the public hasn't read it, and no one even knows what anything is about, I say, hey, maybe it should just be
Have my
studied a little bit.
signature
But
here.
I'm okay. I'm okay. I just know the way we
And it
typically
is
do
wor-
things.
It is worth the paper it's written on, so.
I do want to reassure that part of what I do as the regional director and I go and approach new cities is to contact and work as much with the existing community as possible and to find out from their perspectives what are some gaps and barriers that they work with on a daily basis. And for a place like Fort Lauderdale, you have an abundance, a plethora, a huge amount of very dedicated individuals at various different organizations that are all working very, very steadfastly on addressing HIV. So part of what I want to do with my time here and on return trips is to continue to work with all of them and try to get face-to-face meetings if I can. I love face-to-face meetings. I'm over Zoom. I think we're all doing that. But try to work with them as much as I possibly can. So thank you so much for this, and I look forward to working with all of you.
And thank you for bringing it to our attention. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Mayor, Alan Boyle, just to be clear, if we're getting direction to do, because that resolution, if this is the copy we have here, isn't in the proper format, so we'll have to put it in the proper format for it to be effective.
Right.
So are you giving us direction to do that?
I'm giving you direction. Is the commission giving us
Agreed.
direction?
Yes, there are also there's some phraseology that needs to be cleaned up as
Right,
well.
we'll put it into a.
There's some I's that need to be
Yes,
done.
well, I only just, this is the first time I'm looking at it, which is unusual also, so I haven't had a chance to proof it thoroughly. But thank you, Alan.
Thank you, teacher. Okay, our second presentation, which I have the honor of making, is a proclamation regarding July 2022 as International Friendship Month in the city of Fort Lauderdale. And I'd like to invite our Deputy Consul General from Israel, Mike Dukez, and the chair of our Sister City program here in Fort Lauderdale, Mr. Russell Weaver. Would you like to please come up front?
You got it?
Great, thank you so much. Thank you, gentlemen. How are you, Russell? Nice to see you. Let me stand beside here. So this is a proclamation which comes from the Office of the Mayor of the City of Fort Lauderdale in recognition of International Day of Friendship. Whereas the City of Fort Lauderdale has developed sister city relationships worldwide throughout its partnership with the Greater Fort Lauderdale Sister Cities International Organization. The growing list is diverse and includes 19 cities spanning 17 different countries and growing. Whereas in 2011, July 30th was proclaimed the official International Day of Friendship by the United Nations General Assembly. International Day of Friendship commemorates how bonds between peoples, countries, cultures, and individuals can inspire peace efforts and build bridges between communities. The United Nations urges all governments, international organizations, and civil society groups to celebrate worldwide. The United Nations encourages holding events, activities, and initiatives that promote dialogue among civilizations. These efforts will move the world closer to solidarity, mutual understanding, and reconciliation. Sister Cities International mission is closely aligned with International Day of Friendship. Sister Cities seeks to promote peace through mutual respect, understanding, and cooperation, one individual, one community at a time. Greater Fort Lauderdale Sister Cities has made it their local mission to enrich the Fort Lauderdale community by facilitating economic growth, culture, education, and government exchanges. On International Day of Friendship, the City of Fort Lauderdale celebrates connections that Greater Fort Lauderdale Sister Cities has helped the city build with our partners worldwide, including Israel. We have a sister city with Haifa, correct? Yes. Finally, the mayor and the city commissioners recognize the relevance, importance, and value of our global relationships. So therefore, now as the city commission of the city of Fort Lauderdale, we do hereby recognize today International Day of Friendship in the city of Fort Lauderdale and celebrate our international relationships while honoring the partnerships we formed. Dated today, July 5th, 2022, signed by myself, Mayor Dean Trantalis. Congratulations. Would you like to say a few words?
Thank you, Mayor. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for the invitation. I just want to say for many more collaboration between our sister cities and between the State of Israel and the great state of Florida. Thank you very much.
Russell, would you like to say a few words?
Mayor Trentalles, I'd just like to thank you and the City Commission and all the citizens of Fort Lauderdale for all the support you've given to our Sister Cities programs. And this is certainly one of the many things that we love doing, connecting the international dots. And particularly with Israel, we've always had a great relation, and we continue to have that from now in the future. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Thank you so much. Let's just take a little picture here.
Mazel tov.
So in recognition of this International Day of Friendship and throughout the month, all of the Sister City commemorative plaques with whom we have Sister City relationships are now on display in the lobby of the City Hall. So you're welcome to look at them. If you speak 19 different languages, you can read them all. So but we certainly are very proud of the relationships we've been able to establish. And I've proudly visited about 6 of those cities right now, and hopefully more in the years to come. So thank you.
Oh, yeah, you got it? Ready to go?
So our next presentation, believe it or not, is going to be with Commissioner Glassman. And he will present a proclamation declaring July 9th regarding Flockfest Day. Commissioner Glassman.
Thank you, Mayor. And I'd like to call up with us for today from Flockfest board members Kevin Clevenger, Greg Granger, and Ryan Young. Would you please join me at the podium? Thank you. Gentlemen, wherever you like, you could come. We're going to go there eventually for a photo. We will go there. So I'll read the proclamation, and we have a wonderful slideshow for everybody to see while I'm reading this. If you'd like to, want to cue that up, David? All right, thank you very much. For those of you that are not familiar with Flockfest, it's one of our most joyous events in Fort Lauderdale all year. And if you haven't seen it, you really should participate. So this is a proclamation from the Office of the Mayor, City of Fort Lauderdale, in recognition of the 8th anniversary of Flockfest. Whereas Saturday, July 9th, 2022 marks the 8th anniversary of Flockfest, an annual beach party that evolved into a nonprofit fundraising foundation. And whereas Flockfest started in 2014 as a small gathering with just 60 attendees and 30 floats, founder Stephen Crawford noticed a steady turnout and saw an opportunity to raise money for charities. In 2017, he shifted Flockfest from a gathering of friends into a strategic fundraising effort. And whereas Flockfest began helping other nonprofits promote their events by co-hosting them, known as a charity that supports other charities, Flockfest actively supports organizations working to create social justice and equality for all. Today, Flockfest supports more than 18 local LGBTQ+ and ally institutions, including Julian's Fountain of Youth, Pride Fort Lauderdale, SunServe, the Renan Foundation, the Pride Center at Equality Park, Broward House, Floatorama, the Gay Men's Chorus of South Florida, the Wilton Collective, the Ujima Men's Collective, and the World AIDS Museum. And whereas Flockfest has established partnerships with more than 55 international, national, and local businesses. Since 2017, Flockfest has raised over $100,000 for local nonprofits, including $18,000 in the last quarter of 2021 and $10,000 in the first quarter of 2022. And whereas Flockfest also supports the LGBTQ+ community by participating in local pride events, including both Pride Fort Lauderdale and the Wilton Manor Stonewall Pride Parade and Street Festival, annually over 100 flockers, I have to be careful how I say that, annually over 100 flockers walk the parades dressed in Flockfest signature balloon wing backpacks. And whereas Flockfest has grown exponentially since 2014, more than 800 floats, 800 VIPs, and thousands of attendees are expected at this year's flagship event. Flockfest has also expanded to organize weekly events and fundraisers benefiting the local LGBTQ+ population. And whereas Greater Fort Lauderdale is a leader in the LGBTQ+ tourism industry, attracting millions of LGBTQ+ visitors each year, our area is also home to many LGBTQ+ owned businesses. And whereas the mayor and city commissioners enthusiastically welcome Flockfest attendees to our city, we applaud their fundraising efforts for the LGBTQ+ community and its allies. Now, therefore, we, as city commissioners of the city of Fort Lauderdale, Florida, do hereby proclaim Saturday, July 9th, 2022 as Flockfest Day in the city of Fort Lauderdale and encourage all to join us in supporting and celebrating the LGBTQ+ community. Dated this, the 5th day of July, 2022, and signed by our mayor, the Honorable Dean J. Trentalis. Go ahead, you got it.
So I want to say thank you so much to Dean and the commission here, and also the people that sit on that back row over there and Brittany have been amazing to work with. They're such dedicated individuals, and they help not only Pride Fort Lauderdale, but Flockfest, and we are just grateful for the support of the city.
And I'd like to say thank you again also to the commissioner and the mayor and everybody for this. Unfortunately, the rest of the board could not be here because we do have the event coming up and it's getting a little crazy. But we do have one little announcement that Flockfest is now working even closer with Pride Fort Lauderdale and will be helping us with the main event in years to come. So, thank you.
All right, that's good
Thank you, thank you. Thank you, Commissioner. Thank you, guys. And now it's my honor to be able to present to you Commissioner Moritas, who will present the District 1 Community Appearance Board WOW Award. I see the orchid in the back of the room.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to call up Sally, and then homeowners Orlando and Jose. And Sally's from the Community Appearance Board. So thank you for joining us. Welcome. Thank you for what you've done. And do the orchids and gifts, here we come. These will make your home even more beautiful. So thank you for that, and our picture too. So on behalf of the entire City Commission, I'd like to thank you for the work you've done and present this WOW Award. I'm going to read a description of the improvements you've made while we see some photos, I'm sure, coming up here, right? Somebody? Okay, they're coming. Let me put on my glasses. What do I say? All right, this Community Appearance WOW Award is being presented to Orlando and Jose, who live at 2648 Northeast 33rd Street in Fort Lauderdale. Orlando and Jose are the visionaries behind the property located in Coral Ridge neighborhood. They purchased the home in August of 2020. When approaching the property, your attention is drawn to the modern circular driveway that was upgraded from asphalt to imported Turkish tundra gray marble. The marble tile brings a sophisticated appearance to the entire property. As you look up, the new brilliant white exterior paint on the house provides contrast to the spray-washed brick tiles on the roof. A new modern garage door, matching front door, and a panoramic hurricane impact window complement the front facade of the home. The ambience is set by new wall scones that cast warm, welcoming light. Nice. To create a vibrant, lush Florida landscape, new Japanese blueberry trees were planted. The driveway island landscaping was upgraded with 2 Sylvester palms to create a natural privacy veil. Behind the greenery, the courtyard is adorned with well-manicured topiaries and more Japanese blueberry trees. Matte slate stones were used as an alternative to mulch around the bases of the plant life, bringing the colors and textures of the landscape and home together. The updates complement the rest of the neighborhood and increase curb appeal, making this WOW property one of the crown jewels of this area. The Fort Lauderdale City Commission and the Community Appearance Board proudly present this WOW Award to Orlando and Jose, and thank you for enhancing the Coral Ridge neighborhood in the city of Fort Lauderdale. We're honored to present you the gift certificate of appreciation from the Commission, or just a certificate of appreciation, the gift certificate to Sea Watch, and an orchid from Fresh Market, and assigned a place in your front yard. So thank you. Would you like to say a few words? One of you? Either one? Okay. All right.
Well, thank you so much for the award. I mean, it's a pleasure for us to be part of the city of Fort Lauderdale after living in New York for almost 30 years. So thank you so much.
All right. Thank you. All right. Can we take a photo?
When's the housewarming? Uh-huh. You're very welcome. Congratulations. And thank you for your investment in our community. Thank you, Commissioner. And last but not least, I'd like to invite the Vice Mayor Sorensen, who will present a proclamation regarding Parks and Recreation Month in the city of Fort Lauderdale. Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. Is Caleb here? Is Caleb oh, there you are, Caleb. Come on up. And
sitting quietly in the back of the room.
That's right. That's right. Wearing the appropriate shirt. Phil Thornburg, you're part of this too, so you need to be present too, you know, as part of the team effort here. Come on. So we are celebrating. Yeah, Caleb, come on over here.
Do you have a proclamation for
We'll have you give a speech after.
You have a proclamation for
after
Phil.
I talk, right? we'll have Phil just look good in the background for the time being. So, want to celebrate National Parks and Rec Month. Caleb is the chair of the Parks and Rec Advisory Board for the city. For how long you been doing that, Caleb?
Parks Board for 4 or 5 years.
Yeah. Okay. Great. So he's been on the board for 4 or 5 years and the chair for a couple years. So want to celebrate July being the National Parks and Rec Month. So have a little bit to share here. Whereas Parks and Rec are integral parts of communities throughout this country, in 1985, the United States House of Representatives designated July as National Parks and Recreation Month. And whereas the city of Fort Lauderdale is committed to providing neighborhoods with quality parks and recreational programming and services, our Parks and Rec Department is one of only 183 agencies in the entire U.S. that has earned national accreditation from the Commission for Accreditation of Parks and Recreational Agencies. And whereas nationwide, Parks and Rec encourage an active lifestyle by providing access to public spaces for sports, hiking, swimming, and many other physical activities. Whereas parks contain essential, adaptable infrastructure that makes our communities resilient in the face of natural disasters and climate change, our parks and recreational areas ensure the ecological beauty of our city and provide places for all to connect. I'm really proud, especially of this city commission and the voters of Fort Lauderdale that passed a $200 million Parks and Rec bond that allows us to buy new park property, which we've been doing, and improve existing park property. And one component of that has been partnering with our public schools in Broward County, specifically in the city of Fort Lauderdale, to improve their recreational areas of the schools. Not only schools benefit, but our community can as well. So now, therefore, we as city commissioners of the city of Fort Lauderdale hereby proclaim July 2022 as National Parks and Rec Month. Signed, your mayor, Dane J. Trantelis. Caleb, get it over to you.
Thank you, Ben. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Commission, and my Commissioner, Heather. Again, July is a wonderful month. It's summertime down here. It's summertime all year round down here. But we love our parks. They're beautiful in this city. They really imbibe the city. They invigorate the city. They make the city a beautiful and wonderful place to live as residents. We're thrilled to have the $200 million bond, as Ben mentioned. It will help improve our parks, make our parks better, larger, more expansive, and more directly in the community going forward for residents in the future. And again, thank you very much.
Great, and that concludes our evening of presentations. At this point, we will now move on to the regular part of the meeting. And what happens is that there's a list of items on the agenda that are called consent agenda items. At this point, I will ask each member of the commission if there's an item they wish to pull. If we pull that item, that item will be spoken about separately and voted upon separately. If a member of the commission has not pulled one of the items that you wish to speak about on a consent agenda item, we invite you to come forward at the beginning and speak on that item. You'll have 3 minutes to speak on all the items that you wish to have pulled, and after which we will then go back to the regular meeting. So I'll begin with Commissioner Moritas. Are there any items from the consent agenda which you would like pulled?
No, thank you.
None, Mayor.
None. Commissioner Glassman?
None, Mayor.
Commissioner Sorensen?
None, Mayor.
Okay, so is there any member, let me see. Okay, we have 2 items from the audience who have asked to speak. Patrick Scott has asked to speak on CM4, and Jerry Covington has asked to speak on CP11. Is Patrick Scott here? Also, Andrew Shine, but only for questions. Okay.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm the president of the Fort Lauderdale Historical Society,
Hold on a
and
second.
I'm really only here to answer questions, so I
Only
don't
here to answer questions? Okay.
make any
All right.
other comment. Thank you.
All right. And Jerry Covington? Jerry, are you here to speak or just to answer questions? I can't hear a word you're saying. Come on up. Come on up.
He's the HOA president for Melrose Manors.
Right. I don't have my agenda.
Must be talking about.
I don't have my agenda.
Here, take this.
Good evening to everyone.
Good evening.
My name is Jerry Covington. I am president of Melrose Manors Homeowners Association. And the statement I want to make is that I'm
Speaking to the mic, Jerry.
we are hoping that the commission will approve this item to finance the storm sewers in our area. I have been living in the city of Fort Lauderdale in Melrose Manors for 43 years. We were promised storm sewers back about 35 years ago with many different administrations, and we have yet to receive any. There are exactly 0 storm drains in the community of Melrose Manors. In the last few years, we have had significant rainfall from tropical storms, hurricanes, etc. And the streets are inundated from 12 inches to 18 inches of water. And people are confined to their homes because of this inundation. And we were not even mentioned by name on the master plan of the city of Fort Lauderdale. And I find that somewhat ridiculous because we have a large population of people that are dependent upon city services and operations. I know that the mayor and our Commissioner McKenzie, have been out to view the flooding at different times, especially last year when they were really severe. And I'm hoping that the city will continue and will indeed provide flood mitigation for our area. The eastern part has always flooded in the 43 years I've been here. Now the entire neighborhood from Broward Boulevard to Davie Boulevard, from 31st Avenue to 27th Avenue, go underwater at significant rains. We need the city's help in coming out of this. That's my statement.
Okay, so you're absolutely correct. And when the city created its original list of priorities, it did not include your neighborhood, but it has since been added. And tonight's measure is to begin the process of funding the engineering and the architectural design to move forward on that. The city commission also committed to the funding of it. We are moving forward to make sure that your neighborhood is included as part of the other priority neighborhoods. It takes time, I'm sorry to say that, but I do remember right before Election Day in 2020, I was wading through water, just like you were wading through water. It was a disaster. So we recognize that, and we are sorry for those conditions. But here we are 35 years later, and we're getting. And those who are patient finally get things done. So we are definitely trying to help you.
Thank you to the City Commission for involving your neighborhood of Melrose Manors. I will report this to the neighborhood.
Okay, absolutely. You're very welcome. So I have other people who have chosen to speak, but just for questions. So no one really spoke against any of the items. So I'm just going to ask that a motion be made to approve all the consent agenda items.
Move to approve.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Anyone else wish to speak on any of the consent agenda items that have not yet been pulled or spoken about? There being none, who's saying mayor? You're going to be the death of me. Who's this? CP11, same thing. Elias, are you here? Did you have anything to add other than what was said already?
No, basically, thank you, appreciate that. One of the new plazas in the area, 2890 West Broward Boulevard, the new Starbucks. I think everybody knows about that. And
Actually, why don't you come up to the podium? Since you got all dressed up and you got all set to come here, let the camera see what you look like. Yeah.
Hello, thank you.
What's your name again?
My name is Elias Benaim from 2890 West Broward Boulevard. And once again, to the commission, the mayor, thank you. First time here. Hope not my last time here. In good and in bad, it's always good to be here, and I appreciate that. Just on this item, we've been seeing this as a commercial perspective, not as a residential one. And we're trying to bring, as you see, good commercial entities into the city, in the west area, and very proud of it. And state-of-the-art, plaza, and the Starbucks, future UPS, intelligent ATMs, and also electric chargers into the area. So
it's up and coming.
Say again?
It's up and coming.
So basically, seeing what's happening beside on First, as when with this rains occur every time, and seeing how the area looks, it's a little bit sad to see that, and I'm happy that this is coming into consideration to get the improvements. We would like to understand a little bit more than the emails that we've been sending out, to understand what's the process and the timeline, because I know it takes time, it takes a budget, it takes engineering, and then basically when is this going to happen? So if we can get a better, clear idea, that'll be great. And obviously there's a few other items in that area. In that respect, I wouldn't like to bother you or bore you with that, because it's not on the CP11, so it'll be on a different topic or different date, I guess. Just wanted to say, we're here for the long run. We're here to develop and continue. We just want some help in order for that, the community in that area to look a little bit better. And it needs help. It needs real help on that, on the drainage, security, lighting, and a few other things. Like I said, not part of CP11. So hopefully CP11 and the drainage, is the first step into making this a little bit better in the area. Thank you so much.
All right, so you're supportive of CP11?
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you. Okay, there's a motion, second on the floor. Anybody else wishing to speak on any of the consent agenda items? There being none, please call the roll.
Vice Mayor Sorensen.
Yes.
Commissioner Moritas.
Yes.
Commissioner Glassman.
Yes.
Commissioner McKenzie.
Yes.
Mayor Trentalis.
Yes, and all those consent agenda items are now approved. If anyone is here on any of those items, we really would love for you to stay and listen to the rest of our meeting, but if not, you're welcome to leave because your item has now been approved. So M1, this is a motion approving event agreements, related road closures, and requests for music exemption for Food in Motion and Florida Day of the Dead. I have no one who's signed up to speak. Someone like to move the
Moved.
item? Been moved and second. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Please call the roll.
Vice Mayor Sorensen.
Yes.
Commissioner Moritas. Commissioner Glassman.
Yes.
Commissioner McKenzie.
Yes.
Mayor Trentalis.
Yes, and M1 is now approved. What day of the week is it on this year?
Saturday. Yes.
Thank you.
Good idea.
M2, motion to enter into a First Amendment to the Comprehensive Agreement between the City of Fort Lauderdale and Miami Beckham United LLC. I have one person who signed up to speak. That would be Mary Fertig. Mary, you still here? Yes.
Good evening. I came tonight, I saw that you have this first amendment to the comprehensive agreement. And reading over it, I see you're extending the terms of the park for a year. But I just wanted to come once again and make a plea for more seating for the high school stadium. When this issue came on March 19th, 2019, at the meeting, there were a couple of proposals. The stadium was discussed. In fact, it was pretty much discussed at every conference meeting about this. And there was a lot of conversation about it. So those of us in the community that support our local public high schools were thrilled to see that the city, that Inter Miami was moving forward with something that had come to an end in 2011. From September of 1959 through 2011, our high school games were played at Lockhart, as you know. And then we had this period where our high schools played at other cities' high schools because we didn't provide anything for them. And just when I say we, just realizing that the people of Fort Lauderdale came together with this dream of having this stadium. And it was about a 12-year process before they got it. So we're thrilled that Inter Miami built the stadium. It was great. It's got a turf field. There's only one problem. There are not enough seats for the students, and there is no press box. So as you're moving this ahead, I don't want anyone to think that we're not grateful for what we've gotten, but I was specifically asked last time about the Soul Bowl, so I made a phone call to find out why they hadn't played there, and simply it was that it would cost too much money. It's going to be $35,000 to play there, and that was just not in the budget for that game. Likewise, I think a similar thing happened with the homecoming game for Lauderdale and Stranahan. I'm not criticizing anybody for this. I don't know what the costs are that go into this. I just know that as a city, we had a field that everybody came together and built for our kids, and we played at for a long time, and everything worked, and then we didn't. And I think we can do better. So as you move this comprehensive agreement forward, I would hope there would be some continued conversation about how we're going. I've heard various, and I am making calls myself on what do bleachers really cost, because I'm hearing, huge numbers. I don't know what's accurate. I don't want to know what's not, but I know that as a city we can do better. Commissioner Moritas, you've mentioned the city gets 4 events a year, maybe homecoming at Lauderdale and Stranahan, which is a game they play against each other at homecoming, and the Soul Bowl are 2 of those events. I don't know. But I'm imploring you as you move ahead with this comprehensive agreement tonight to make some arrangements for the children of our community who were thought about a long time ago. And I'm not saying you don't think about them. I'm just saying I believe we can figure something out here. Thank you.
Mary, I have a question. Have you made the same ask to the school board of Broward County, who is responsible for the schools and the students?
As I think I explained last time, that school board builds a lot of things, but they don't necessarily build stadiums. They have built some around the county, but generally that is an outside. I know this from when I was teaching at Coconut Creek High School. We watched as new stadiums went up in Coral Springs High, and we watched as new stadiums have gone up in many schools. So, yes, actually, Pat Riley probably remembers this. We implored them to give us the funds to start the study, and I'm trying to locate those funds right now to see if something can be done.
Great, and I asked...
Listen through the tapes, see what the commitment was in 2019 when I thought everybody was on board for this. And it's great to have a stadium, but if you can't sit down and watch the game, it's not so great. And if it's going to be $35,000 to play a game, that's, it's kind of an unreachable. It's not for the little stadium, but for the big stadium that we had talked about for the Soul Bowl and and potentially the Soul Bowl was the only guaranteed, and I think Commissioner Sorensen was there when we had the conversation. But the other one was to try to do the homecoming game for Lauderdale High.
So do we know how many can be seated right now at the stadium?
Can I get to you with the exact number?
Oh, sure, no problem. And we're asking
I know it's not enough. All I'm asking is that we keep this as an open
Oh,
conversation.
definitely. I agree with you. I only
appreciate everything Inter Miami has done. I just would like to see us resolve this. I don't know what happened to the conversations, but I believe this is something we can do and something that we can do as a community for our kids. So I'm just here to say, don't let this die till the next conversation in a year about Lockhart.
And I agree with you, and we should do this for the kids. I'm just saying, as the city who partners with the school board, and just for people that might not even know, because they might get the impression if they're listening, that we're responsible for the schools and stadiums and athletic fields, when we're not. And we're not. That's the school board of Broward County, everyone. So, but I'm just saying, as a partner for us, we have given them a stadium. We have given 2 high schools a place to play again. So, and I agree with you, we should be working for this. But I want to also make sure that people know that we do a lot in the schools, even though that's not our purview. We provide school resource officers. We do programming. We're doing the joint use parks now out of our parks bond that our voters voted on, $200 million. We're creating parks from our schools. So we do. And we do care, and we want to make sure that this happens, but I think the school board has to step up to the plate as much as we do.
I think I prefaced every statement by this is not about fault with anybody. And yes, the city does a lot, but in the 1950s, starting actually in 1947, there was a drive to get this stadium built for the kids of our community.
Yes.
And the people of our community did that. Don't know what led to the decision not to. I think they were going to put some kind of water park up there. And that meant that we didn't have it. So I don't want anyone to think that we didn't have a place. We did. Part of the thing that I understood when we were here, when you were weighing which proposal was better and so forth and so on, that there was a commitment. They have built the stadium, but there aren't enough seats. So all I'm asking is that we keep the conversation open. And this is not necessarily a school board expense. As a grandparent of a child currently in the schools in our community, I want to see for my grandson the same thing I saw for my children and the same thing I had and the same thing my parents had, and that's that the city supports the local sports. I know you do, Steve. I'm not questioning that. I believe this is a solvable problem, but not without the conversation. And the conversation can't be the school board because they'll just send them back to somebody else's city to play in. And I don't think that our home field for Fort Lauderdale High School should be in somebody else's city. So I just implore you, just help us to get this conversation going, is all I'm asking tonight.
Understood. Thank you for your work on it.
Mary, we did talk about this at the conference meeting today. Were you still here when we talked about it?
Apparently not.
Okay. And Commissioner Sorensen was going to take the lead on following up a little bit, but since we do have this on the agenda, and Mackenzie, I'm sorry, forgive me. We were going to reach out to the schools, Stranahan and Dillard, and talk about it. And we also discussed as a commission, our desire to support, even if we have to financially, the opportunity for those 2 games to be at Inter Miami at the big stadium. And we are also willing to even give, possibly use 2 out of our 4 reserved spots to allow the schools to play on an annual basis. Those are all things we discussed a couple hours ago, but we're still working out the details.
Okay.
And then we want to ask Inter Miami, the next step would be, well, how much would it be if it was one of our reserved spots, right? Like, what would the cost be? And hopefully that's a little less, maybe not. I don't understand the how much it costs to security and everything else. So those are all things we're working on from now till we're going to bring this back in August when we meet again. But, Chris, since we do have this amended agreement before us, is it possible to put language like this in an amended agreement, or is this something outside of an amended agreement?
So eventually, I think it could be part of an amended agreement. What's before you tonight was really just a quick, simple, address one topic item that the city attorney and I put together so that while you were on your break, your summer break, we didn't hit this deadline that all of a sudden might or might not trigger other things to happen. So this has been, what's before you tonight has been before Inter Miami. They've consented to it. I can represent to you that they've consented to it. If you were to add more to it tonight, I wouldn't necessarily be able to say that. I do have tonight a conceptual rendering to distribute to the commission, as you all have been asking, from Inter Miami as to what they would build on the south part of the site that they believe meets conformance with the comprehensive agreements. And I think generally you will like it when you see it. That was received from Inter Miami just a couple days ago, 1st of July. So I will distribute that, but I don't know that we can.
Okay.
I don't know that we can bundle all that up tonight on the fly. I would encourage, though, that if you want to do that, and you all asked me to have one of their decision makers at the meeting, and they're just on the 5th of July, the decision makers were not available for tonight. So, at your first meeting in August, if you want to, over the summer, work on a more comprehensive, probably the wrong word, a more comprehensive addressing of the comprehensive agreement, that might be fine. And that would be how you could incorporate this conceptual image that I'll show you tonight into a second amendment to the agreement so that you have some ideas to what's going to be built when. I know the mayor is asked to meet with, I use the term decision makers. That really means one of the two owners that's based in the United States, and that's either George or Jose Moss. Maybe get a meeting scheduled once they get back into town with any of you individually. I can't do collectively except here. Have the discussions you might want to have over the summer to then figure out how to tidy this thing up. I've talked to Ms. Toothaker as recent as today, who represents Inter-Miami. I don't know if she's in the audience or not, but
She's here.
She's here, so she's hearing what I'm saying, and I think she's in agreement.
She's not saying anything.
As long as her head's nodding the right direction, I think she's in agreement to making the same recommendation to them that we figure out how to get Inter-Miami closed. We figure out how to get the comprehensive agreement addressed. We figure out how to get the park built, and then the future of the site to move on from there. I do think bleachers and a press box are very different and apart from the comprehensive agreement in that, I think that could be just something that they could consent to be constructed. I think we're going to have to buy that.
Correct.
And I think at the last meeting, you all gave the direction that you were willing to do that. But that would be a subsequent agreement that we would just need to be able to enter onto the property that they now occupy with their ground lease and to be able to construct those facilities, whatever they're determined to be.
And we can use park bond dollars for that, is that right, Alan, Chris?
I'm not sure about the press box, but
Probably. I mean,
probably
should be as part of we should be able to, yeah.
Okay.
And I'm
Thanks.
sorry, thank you for bringing it up this afternoon. I left at about 4:30 and
All the
I
fun
thought
started.
you were talking about it
We
tonight.
had a great discussion.
Yeah, we had a great discussion.
It was good.
Okay.
It was good.
Can
Yeah,
I
you're gonna be
ask,
happy.
Can I throw one more thing in then?
Sure.
This is a huge piece of property and it's not zoned park. So I don't know if that came up this afternoon or not, but just hope that someday that protection
Right.
would be added. Thank you.
Thank you. That's a good point. Okay, thanks, Mary.
Are we done?
Comments? When?
Okay, thank you. Let's see, we are on
you've got some comments.
M2, so 1M.
Commissioner Moritas wants to say something, Mayor.
Yes, do we have any more?
Say something else, okay.
Anyone else from the public? Mayor?
We're all done with public
Oh,
hearing.
done with the public. Okay, thank you, Chris. I don't know if this is possible, but if we vote tonight to extend the agreement, it basically says we are going to, they need to just build it by next July, so it gives them a year extension. I think there are some items we probably should put in the amended agreement before we vote on it. So would it be possible to vote on an extension until August? So it gives us a month. So I know July is when this agreement is up. So I know we need additional time. But I think we need to amend the agreement with a few more things before we vote on an entire year extension. For example, we've talked about naming it Lockhart Park, and that's not in the amended agreement. And I know we were going to add it to an amended agreement whenever we had an amended agreement.
And they have consented to do that.
I'm sorry, is it in there? Did I just
It's
miss
not
that?
in this agreement, but there is consent from
Okay.
Inter-Miami to do that.
Thank you. I've heard that before, so I think it would be good just to have it in the agreement, though, in the amended agreement. So I don't know if we could just say, we're going to extend this until, August 16th, and then when we come back, we're going to have the new amended version that we vote on with all the amendments that need to be included, including giving us access to the high school stadium to.
Well, Commissioner, this is how we got into the problem to begin with. We kept moving the goalpost, so to speak, by wanting to add more and more stuff, and then expecting them to finish it all in a very finite period of time. We can't keep doing that because then they're going to want to extend the deadline by which they are going to be able to complete the job. We have to decide on something, and we have to give them the parameters within which they have to complete the job.
Sure. So we were handed an image of the park right now.
Which you're not expected to have
Which we're not
digested. I just
okay.
got it a couple days ago and wanted to make sure that you had it with the context of an explanation.
So when we voted on this agreement 3 years ago, we had in our backup a picture of the park we were voting on, or that was going to be built.
Correct.
So I think
How different is this?
It's, when you compare them side by side, it's similar with one exception. And the exception is there's not depicted on the one you see the community center that we were going to build and the splash pad that we were going to build and those improvements that we had plopped on the conceptual rendering that we were going to invest in. So this is just a generic, meet the comprehensive agreement. All the different things that were called out in the comprehensive agreement are depicted on this conceptual rendering. I think that over the last couple months as we've been negotiating this, we finally got clarity on the fact that they would be artificial surface fields as opposed to natural surface. The last thing that was added was a playground, which is called out in the comprehensive agreement. You can see that depicted on the south part of the site, or the south part of the rendering as you see it by the parking lot. The other things meet the conformance with the comprehensive agreement and still leaves a good chunk of the space that if the desire truly is to build a structure in the middle of the park, and we want to do that, that you still have a pad ready to do that.
Mm-hmm. So I guess my point is, if right now, how it stands, we're voting on an amended agreement just to say, fine, please build the park by next July. But I think there are other items, just like, we're not asking them to change anything on the south side of the park. I just think there are other items like, is it going to be named Lockhart Park? Can we have access to the fields to add the bleachers? I think there are some other items that we might need to agree upon now that we have all given, a verbal nod to, we're going to do it, but we just don't have it in any agreement. So I don't know. What do you all think?
Couldn't there be more amendments going forward?
Yeah,
There can be as many amendments.
Exactly. We can just keep amending.
Okay, so I guess if we keep amending it, that's fine.
So here's a suggestion, Commissioner, is approving this tonight or voting on this tonight, and then additional amendments or suggestions, if you want to, bring them back next meeting and say, hey, here are the additional things I think we should include in the agreement.
Well, yeah, I think it's just what we have been talking about, the Fort Lauderdale High School, Stranahan High School football stadium side. What can we do? Are we allowed to go in and add some improvements? So I'd like to see that somehow in writing.
Yeah.
And then naming it Lockhart. And then, so when I was looking at the attachment 3, when it says 4 years, it means 4 years from 2019.
Right, I have a date specific in there as well. We use the same language as the original, so we weren't changing anything except the duration of the time, so that's why the language is identical.
So it does say have it completed by.
Same language.
So do they feel like that's enough time to complete the park by July of
That's
next
what
year?
they've asked for and agreed to.
That's enough time for them? Okay.
Yes, this was presented to them and they've consented to it. Obviously, nobody anticipated a pandemic either that got in the way of this project the first time. So, I would say that yes, at this point, that is sufficient time to build a park.
And to the city manager's point, with regard to the bleachers and the number of seats and all that, really should be in a separate agreement versus the comprehensive agreement, because the specificity, we didn't really address that in the comprehensive agreement.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think we're going to get into the weeds again, to the mayor's point, where we're going to be adding components to the original agreement that may delay the park.
That's fine, and maybe it's a separate agreement where we name it Lockhart Park. I just think we really need to name it Lockhart Park at some point soon, and then figure out what we're going to do with the football stadium.
I mean, we can check, and here I'm going to do what I always encourage you not to do, which is to change these things on the fly. Because Inter Miami has represented that they would be willing to name the park Lockhart Park, I mean, to the extent we could get, and I don't know if she has authority to do it, but to the extent we could get Ms. Toothaker to affirm that on the record, and the city attorney comfortable with adding a single line that says the park will be named Lockhart
Well,
Park.
it's more complicated than that
Know
because
that-
it's not just agreeing to it, but then there's also naming rights that are implicated in the other parts of the
Correct.
agreement. So since it was never part of the original agreement, you're going to have to create a complete new section and make sure it doesn't conflict with any others. So
Too hard to do on the
I don't want to
fly.
do on the fly.
Okay,
And that's
bad
fine.
off, bad,
we don't
bad, bad suggestion.
Maybe if we could just bring it back.
But let's hear Ms. Toothaker just affirm again that they have no problem with naming this Lockhart Park, correct?
Good evening, Stephanie Toothaker on behalf of Miami Beckham United. Yes, I'd like to reaffirm again that we have no objection and have agreed, since it's been brought up multiple times, to naming the area Lockhart Park. So it does not, as long as it does not affect the naming rights of the stadium and the training facility, we do agree that the whole area should be called Lockhart Park and have consented to that, and we'll do it again this evening.
Super. And is there a parking agreement? Is that over in October, Chris?
The parking agreement is for 1 year, which ends, yes, at the end of this season.
Thank you.
So, couple questions that I've just, so can Commissioner Moritas, you and Alan and Toothaker get together and just over the next, or whenever you have time, but get a sense of whenever time allows, but what are the additional agreements and possibly we can bring forward, in August or
Well,
September?
that direction needs to come. We need to get that from the commission as to what additional things you would want. I mean, we can identify some issues.
Great.
But it's not that I can bring an amendment in August that's going to actually.
That's fine. You can at least work with the commissioner on figuring out some of the ideas.
But do you have
And
the
you can bring the,
direction from us about the high school football stadium site that maybe we feel comfortable using park bond money and we feel comfortable adding the bleachers if Inter Miami allows us in the press box?
We can. It's kind of hard to do on the fly. Again, I don't think it'd be part of the comprehensive agreement. We'd have to talk to Inter Miami about it because
Well, yeah, not for the comprehensive agreement. We'll vote on this tonight. I think we're talking about,
additional
separate agreement. Well, we'd actually have to negotiate that with Inter Miami. Sit down with them and do that. So the matter.
I'm happy to commit to doing that over the summer break.
so I think from the commission, I think we would like to explore that option, if that's fair. We'd like to explore the naming option as well in an agreement. Those are two items. Is that, Heather, what else?
yeah, well, what we talked about at conference today is can we maybe get how much it would cost for the city to have an event, and that event would be the Soul Bowl? I mean, would it still be that $30,000, or could we get that price reduced if it was one of our 4 events?
Okay.
So I don't know if that's something
Great,
we
so
can
that's-
talk to them about, and we can give.
Yeah, well, it's just separate issues. Then, yeah, we can sit down and figure out issues. It's just that we're gonna have to be careful how we don't want to delay anything else from the comprehensive agreement. So that level of specificity with regards to actual dollar costs, because those are going to vary. It's a moving target.
Right.
So that's going to change from 1 year to the other, or from 6 months to the next. So that's not built into the comprehensive agreement. So
Well,
again,
maybe it's just like you said, Alan, it's just a completely different agreement. Maybe we don't amend this. We just vote on it, let this go, and then we have a new agreement where we come in
Yep,
and
so,
we.
yeah.
talk about-
So let's vote on what's on the agenda today, and then, Alan, if you can, use your wonderful legal mind and.
But it's just, despite his wonderful legal mind, let's be real here. What leverage do we have in trying to amend a new component to this that is not part of the original comprehensive agreement? We have no consideration that would pass, and therefore, what would be the incentive for them to do the additional amount of work that they don't necessarily have to do now?
they would. So we could probably structure it if we're going to do, again, a lot of it may be access versus work. So we'll have to figure out if there's a path to it. To your point with.
We're not asking them to do additional work.
Yeah, we're taking on the responsibility. We're asking for the permission.
If you're asking for
No, we're
additional, if you're asking for additional seating in the football field,
We'd pay for it.
We do the work, build it, pay for it.
we would pay for that?
We'd pay for it. Yeah. Yep. They'd just give us access.
Okay.
Anyway.
If you're okay with
Let's
it.
move on. Anything else?
No, I think that's good.
I think you've discussed it.
Alan, is
fully.
that fair to?
Yeah, we'll discuss it
Great.
as we go forward separately from.
All right, so there's a motion on the floor approving the agreement for for the First Amendment for the comprehensive agreement between City of Fort Lauderdale and Miami Beckham United LLC. It's been moved and seconded, correct? It's not
Yes.
been moved and seconded.
Moved.
Someone want to move
Second.
it?
Moved. Second.
Been moved and seconded. Please call the roll.
Vice Mayor Sorensen?
Yes.
Commissioner Moritas?
Yes.
Commissioner Glassman?
Yes.
Commissioner McKenzie?
Yes.
Mayor Trentalles?
Yes, and the motion is now approved. By the way, I just
Thank you.
want to back up a little bit. CP 14, this is the motion approving the agreement for DC Alexander Park. I'm so happy that we've all agreed to do that, and hopefully that will soon get done. I know it's a District 2 amenity, something that's long been, we've been talking about for years and years.
Years and years. And I was trying to think the other day, some of the original charrettes from the neighborhood association, and I don't know.
Even
Was
when
it
I
was it 7, 8, 9, 10 years ago
Yeah,
we started
yeah.
talking about DC Alexander Park?
So I'm glad, and thank you, Chris, for putting it on the agenda and getting it passed. And now we can hopefully see it into fulfillment soon. Now, we have neighborhood presentations. We have 4 people in our community who have asked to give presentations. We allow 4 minutes for each person, and each person has come with regard to a specific topic. The first person is Hardy Anderson. Is Hardy here? Hardy? Okay. Moving on to Joshua Brown. Is Joshua here? Come on up. Welcome to the City Commission of Fort Lauderdale. Do you have a video? Keep in mind, when people do make neighbor presentations, the commission is not obligated to respond or participate in anything that is being discussed. It's just an opportunity for a member of the public to come and speak their mind, and this is the opportunity. Thank you.
Hello, good afternoon. My name is, good afternoon, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Commissioners. My name is Joshua Brown. I reside at 14 Southwest 20th Terrace, Fort Lauderdale, Florida, 33312. As a graduate of Stranahan High School, Walker Elementary was my secondary primary school, as well as Rogers Middle School. So I'm a born and raised native of Fort Lauderdale, Florida. So when I speak with passion from my neighborhood. But today's introduction is called Second Chance Spotlight. Basically, the introduction is basically just giving a synopsis of what Step Up is about and our whole initiative when it comes to returning citizens here in the Fort Lauderdale area. What is Second Chance? Second Chance Initiative is a recognition initiative that my organization and plethora of other contributions of supporting organizations have done to bring the awareness of Second Chance Month. We all know every month is a different recognition, but when it comes to returning citizens, they kind of like on the back end. But April was recognized by President Joe Biden in 2020 to recognize returning citizens and making this day a proclamation of Second Chance Month in April. So what Second Chance Spotlight is, it is a type of recognition that employers can implement to spotlight their individual who they hired through the Second Chance opportunity of their hard work after correction, after they was previously incarcerated and returning back to the community. This recognition is a weekly award that will be rewarded during the month of April, which designate as Second Chance Month. Just like how you have Employee of the Month and Teacher Appreciation Week, now we're trying to spotlight Second Chance Initiative for returning citizens so we can try to minimize the recidivism when it comes to individuals who was previously incarcerated. Of course, like I was speaking about what President Joe Biden did with Second Chance Money, how he made it a proclamation with Washington, D.C., and well with plethora of other cities and states around the nation that's doing the same thing, recognizing their returning citizens. In the reference, of course, we know the city of Riviera Beach has a phenomenal returning citizen program, what the community and what the city is doing for their returning citizen. We know, of course, the mecca of it is the returning citizen of Washington, D.C. They are the mecca when it comes to returning citizens, really employing into their community for returning citizens, well as Boston, Massachusetts, and well as on the Board of Commissioners of Collier County in Naples. They have a phenomenal endowment and well as presentation when it comes to their returning citizen. And as I close with my closing statement, we know former incarceration individuals face challenges. Like I said, STEPA has developed a permanent strategy to assist these individuals returning back to the community with the support of the community. And last, questions, if there are any.
Okay, thank you.
I don't have a question, but I just want a little clarity. So when you say second chance, you're talking about reentry?
Yeah, meaning returning citizens. Second chance is like the word that we use for when we say an individual who's previously incarcerated, like say second chance employment, meaning like, of course we know the city has it, but it's kind of more on a silent hiring. But now we're like how you do with a public appreciation week, like how you guys spotlighted the public works department. That's basically what we're trying to do. We're trying to spotlight these individuals. Let's give them their flowers for returning back, facing these barriers that they face once they return back to their community. And just basically let them know, hey, we know everyone makes a mistake, but here's your second chance to redeem yourself.
So you basically want an acknowledgement.
Basically, acknowledgement, recognition.
Helping
return, just basically giving them their...
bring light to the subject matter as if it was a disease or whatever the things that we do here to highlight issues. So it's not that you're asking us to change the law or anything. You're saying you want the recognition.
Yes, sir. And not even that. Basically, this is a campaign that's going now into the month of April. I'm trying not only with public, with the private, with
So
the...
is this the month that we recognize?
Yes, April. Yes, April. April is considered. April is second chance month. It's like I said, current President Joe Biden has made a proclamation for April to be second chance month. And with this initiative, it's not only going to the city, it's being presented to Broward County, it's being presented to Winter Manors, Western, Plantation. I'm trying to advocate for these individuals to get their spotlight. And with that being said, not only with the municipalities, with the government entity, as well as the private sectors to get on board and recognize these individuals.
Mayor, is it possible, and thank you, Mr. Brown, for your work, can we just put Mr. Brown in touch with both Neighbor Support and Public Information Office, and then maybe by next April we can have a nice proclamation and bring some of the folks, and we can do something really nice next April when it's when that month comes around.
Like Commissioner, like I said, granted we know like granted I don't know the extent. That's more of an HR question that we know that individuals do get hired due to second chance opportunity, but it's like how you said with the employee works, how they had their spotlight where employee works on week or day, however you guys recognize them. It's the same thing that we're trying to do when it comes to April with Second Chance Month. We're really trying to make this month a historical month, that it can be a national month, that it can be recognized for these individuals to show, hey, you know what? City of Fort Lauderdale really care about the recidivism. Broward County, not even just on the municipal side, but well as the private sector, really care about our returning citizen. And maybe we can try, not saying it's our law enforcement, not saying it's a go-to initiative, but it's something that we can let our returning citizens know that in the city of Fort Lauderdale and Broward County, here in South Florida, we really do care about our returning citizen and keeping the recidivism rate down here in the state of Florida.
Understood. So I'm sure, right, Mayor, we can, the city, make sure you leave your card, and I think that we can do a really nice job next April.
Appreciate
Is there someone from neighborhood support here that can help him? See, Louisa will help you, and even if we have to come back and say it was for April, it seems like we're in consensus that we would do something to acknowledge this day. All right?
Appreciate it. Thanks,
And Joshua, if you need help, it sounds like not only would it be public sector employees, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's also private sector employees that are giving us a chance.
Correct.
Okay, so if you need any help connecting with private sector Fort Lauderdale-based companies, just let us know. I mean, you and I talk, but let us know and we'll happily connect you with those companies so you can ask them too. Maybe they could, some of their folks could come too.
Appreciate it. Definitely will, Vice Mayor.
Yeah.
Thank you, and keep up the good work.
Appreciate it, Commissioner.
Go Dragons.
You selling those shirts?
I'm actually trying to bring the
That could be a fundraiser.
Second, we all know with Black Lives Matter, Second Chance Matter. Hopefully, we're trying to bring that initiative to making a national brand.
All right, thank you, sir.
Great, thank you, Joshua. Is Marta Resco here?
Fine.
Hello, Marta.
You got it?
Good evening. Marta Recko, 2516 Southwest 14th Avenue, Fort Lauderdale. Good evening, Mayor, Commissioners. Well, thank you for this opportunity, and tonight I would like to talk a little bit about the Jimmy Evert Tennis Center. Well, first, as some of you already know, South Florida, it's the Mecca, I would like to use that word that we just heard. It's a Mecca for the tennis players. And we do have a lot of competition. We have a city next to us like Miami, Deerfield Beach, Boca, that they have good facilities for all the residents and visitors. Our facility is losing that competition right now. And I'm talking particularly about the Jimmy Evert Tennis Center. And as we all know, this is destination not only for the local, for the residents, but also international destination if it comes to the tennis players. I've been touched last Sunday watching Wimbledon, and there was Chris Evert at the floor on a Sunday on the parade. She's a 3-time Wimbledon winner. Her father established Jimmy Evert Tennis Center. We should be proud that we have born and raised tennis stars, internationally recognized. It is take a lot of challenge to win 3 times Wimbledon. She was next to the Serena Williams, Nadal, Federer, great champions. So we should be proud to have city that it's winning the competition. If it comes to the Miami and Boca, they don't have a Chris Evert. We do have a Jimmy Evert Tennis Center. We're definitely winning that competition. But we're losing if it comes to our condition of our facility. And I'm here a little bit frustrated because we all know it's no free entry to that park. That facility, to be on the ground of that facility, I need to pay my membership, or I need to pay a rental fee for a court. It's no free entry. This is not like every park in a city that because I'm paying my entry fee, I have expectations to come to those conditions. So I don't like bring problems. I like to bring some solutions. I'm not sure if I can bring some recommendations, but first I like to address maybe some low-hanging fruit, and maybe we can talk to the management, the current staff that is responsible for this facility, and keep them accountable. I see staff over there, but I don't see them cleaning. Maybe we can do some pressure cleaning. Maybe we can clean the bathrooms. Maybe we could do some paint job. Low-hanging fruit. It is not really big financial items. Maybe we can fix fences so the balls are not lost and the people are not, walking through. I'm not asking for a big ticket items. I understand this is the band. I'm hearing about the money. I'm hearing about the time, the progress, that it's coming. But if it comes to those big projects, what I'm asking to have members, maybe we can establish advisory board and have members of the actual tennis park involved in those decisions. Like maybe we should be at the table and bring some recommendations what actually works, because we travel around. Tennis, it's the game that we travel to play. So we see which cities are better, what we can do, what we can bring here, and maybe we can bring that glory and back to the Jimmy Evert. And that would be all.
Okay, thank you.
Mayor, may I just speak to Ms. Resco? Thank you. And thank you for coming tonight and speaking to us about this.
You're very welcome.
I wanted you to understand, I've been having conversations over the last several months with about maybe 7 or 8 individuals on this exact topic that you're here to speak to us about. Obviously, it's very important to me as the district commissioner for the facility. And I did want to let you know that the last meeting that Parks and Recreation had was on June 28th, with about 6 individuals. I have another meeting scheduled on August 18th when the commission returns from break. And there have been items like you mentioned, plus others that have been identified in terms of what we need to do for the facility. But we are working on those. And it's my hope that we will get up to speed like you want and so many others. But I did want you to know that this conversation has been going on now for a good 4 or 5 months. And we've been meeting with lots of folks. And perhaps on August 18th, we can reach out and also include you with the other folks that we've been having that discussion with, if that's amenable to you.
We see. I cannot be committed more than I am right now.
Okay, well, I don't want to commit you. I should be committed sometimes, but that's a whole nother story. But I will continue to meet with everybody. We definitely have your remarks for this evening, so I just wanted to say thank you for bringing it to our attention as well. But I wanted you to know that dialogue has already started.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Good night.
Thank you, Mayor.
You're welcome. Next, we invite Leanne Barber, who would like to talk about transition planning for Flagler Village.
Good evening, Mayor and Commission. I'm Leanne Barber, the president of the Flagler Village Civic Association. Thank you for allowing me the time to have a discussion with you. We need to keep our reputation intact as a place to go for an enjoyable, family-friendly experience. This is a quote from the mayor's last newsletter. You were talking about Las Olas, but I invite you to extend that sentiment to every neighborhood in Fort Lauderdale. Wouldn't it be wonderful if every neighbor and visitor felt welcome in our city, regardless of what neighborhood they were in? When I moved to Flagler Village 10 years ago, that was exactly what it was, family-friendly. Our neighbors stopped by to welcome me when I moved in. I knew them all by name and greeted them in the street regularly. We met up at the art walk, shared food from the garden, and had picnics in the park. We sheltered together during Hurricane Irma and its aftermath, when the entire neighborhood lost power for 14 days. I led a 4-H club for a dozen kids in the community and participated in their growth from 10-year-olds to college students. Lately, however, the neighborhood has become decidedly unfriendly, largely because of your policy of rapid, large-scale development with no impact analysis or integration planning. No transportation and mobility study, no retail study, no environmental or social impact study. These could inform the city and lead it to proactively make infrastructure changes ahead of or at the same time that our 10,000 or so new people, their dogs and their cars, are descending on our streets, with more to come. Why not integrate these newcomers into the fabric of our city and lead it to be a friendlier, more prosperous city for all? Life in the pool deck may be great, but life at the street level is getting more hostile. Significantly adding to the hostility in Flagler Village is your recent action, without notice to the neighbors or any consultation, to regulate parking on every street in our neighborhood. Imagine coming home to find that the spaces in front of your home and all of the surrounding streets have been turned into paid, restricted parking areas with no overnight parking. One of my neighbors, Craig, is a disabled veteran. Since you took away the free parking outside his home, his daughter and caregiver now have to park blocks away. Soon, even that will no longer be an option. Another neighbor, Steve, can no longer freely invite guests to dinner without it becoming a major hassle and logistics nightmare. We have requested a rethink of parking in Flagler Village, but the city officials seem hamstrung to work with us towards a solution for all. The attitude of city officials has been, the city ordinance gives me the authority to do this, and I can't deviate to take into consideration the conditions on the ground. Not a friendly response. I do want to add at this point that I have been in discussion with Commissioner Glassman, and he is aware of the issue, but there's not really a good solution in plan. Another example, many of the street signs in Flagler Village are broken. After waiting 6 months for a response, I was told it was our responsibility to pay to have them fixed. Judy, our mobility coordinator, is trying to see what can be done, but this is not making a good impression on our 10,000 new residents. Yesterday, I received both a certificate of appreciation for my advisory committee service, very friendly, and a letter that looked like a lawsuit stating that I was creating a public nuisance in my yard with language threatening me with prosecution, fines, and hearings, and liens, and a foreclosure. It was signed, "Please notify immediately as to your intentions on this matter. Please govern yourself accordingly." Really? How about if instead of this unfriendly approach, you created a door hanger saying, "Your squale is looking a bit scruffy. Could you tidy it up because we want to keep the neighborhood looking good? Please contact us if you're having difficulty maintaining your property, as we may be able to assist you." Hashtag keep Fort Lauderdale friendly. Friendliness starts with the commission and is implemented through city management. I hope that you will reflect on your approach and attitudes towards the residents and initiate ways for the stakeholders in our city to work together to realize your vision of a family-friendly city. Thank you very much.
Great, thank you.
Hey, Leanne, question for you. Thanks for sharing. What types of signs are broken? Like
The street signs.
like with the street name on them?
Yes.
Okay. So whose jurisdiction does that fall under? The replace?
Yeah, but if we know about it, we can get signs replaced.
Yeah, we can. The neighborhood shouldn't have to
Then
pay for that.
reported on Lauderdale for 6 months. And like I said, I talked with Judy Erickson. And first of all, I went back again and again and again and didn't get a response. And then I was told that because they were purchased under some grant, that it was
Maybe
up to-
NCIP or something?
Yeah, I don't know the.
But the point is not the street
I don't know the
signs. The point
specific.
is this is an example of the friendliness of the city when we say we have an issue.
I get it.
That's what
okay.
I'm really talking
All right.
about.
No,
These
that's
are just
fair.
examples of that.
That's fair. Well, I think so. We can get those street.
We can look
signs.
into it and figure out if there's street signs that are prescribed by the code, if they're decorative. There's a
Yeah.
bunch of questions we need to answer, but we can do that. I don't know who's nodding their head.
The Ben Rogers.
Ben Rogers is nodding his head, so let's let Ben.
Ben Rogers is friendly most of
interject.
the time. Leanne, he really is.
Except for when he's implementing those new parking rules.
Yeah, exactly.
Without telling anybody,
But-
Ben.
Leanne, talk to him about the specific street sign. He can at least help us.
Yeah. I
Towards
think
that.
that the bigger issue is we have tremendous growth, tremendous number of
Yep.
people being added into our city with no
Yep.
integration planning. And we would really like to come together so that we can say, how are we going to accommodate 6,000 new cars on our streets without there being gunfire, right? When people are fighting over parking spaces. So, and we've got new businesses that are opening up, and they're concerned about having people a place to park. If we want to convert to a more pedestrian-friendly city, let's do it. But then we've got to solve all the issues surrounding that from happening.
Okay.
So I'm just saying, can we work together
Yeah.
to solve these
That's
problems?
fair. And Commissioner, you're the parking piece is something you're.
A lot of opposition and feedback from that, and so we adjusted that, and so the hours of operation now are 8 a.m. to midnight. So it gives more flexibility for after midnight to 8 a.m., there's no charging for parking, and you can stay longer than the 4 hours.
Okay.
So there's been a lot of challenges, as Leanne indicated, between the growth in the area, a lot of the density, a lot of the commercial properties, a lot of the residentials. They all have competing needs, and so a lot of times your solution for that is to implement paid parking, which encourages the turnover, which allows for more available parking spaces to be open at a time. And so, if I can, to Commissioner Glassman's point, we've had multiple conversations about what we can and can't do. There seems to be a strong appetite for the neighborhood that we should be doing guest permits. And the only way we can do a guest permit is to implement a residential parking program such as Coley Hammock it has. And in the ordinance, I believe it's Division 5 of Chapter 26, it outlines all the parameters and the steps that are required to do that. And so we've been engaging with the HOA. We met with them. We attended the last meeting. I'm actually scheduled to meet with Leanne this Friday to talk about some of the issues and challenges. She provided a formal notice or a formal letter to the city on June 30th. So we've been in receipt of that and digesting it now, and I'll have some initial conversations and feedback with her on Friday.
Okay. Now, I don't want to say I told you so, but you weren't here at the time. But when we passed the requirement saying that there was no parking requirement necessary for any of these buildings, I said time and again, this is what's going to happen. We're not going to have enough parking. We built buildings, specifically one at 101 North Federal Highway, which has very little parking. And I knew that that building would be a failure. And to this day, that building sits empty because there's no parking. So let us learn as a lesson that we need parking. And the fact that we keep allowing developers to minimize and reduce their parking requirement just to let them build their buildings on the cheap is not going to get us anywhere. We're going to continue to fight with neighbors and with old neighbors and new neighbors every single time we have issues with regard to parking. And the fact that this commission did change the zoning, that did require at least one parking space per unit, is a step in the right direction. But it needs to be much more than that. And to allow developers to get away with it, and in the previous administration, when I raised this question, the answer to me was, well, the city needs to build a parking garage. So in other words, the city has to spend taxpayer dollars to build parking when it should have been part of the original development when the developer was building his project to begin with. That is why we have problems today. It's not like it took a rocket scientist to figure that one out, but now we're having to grapple with this challenge. So God bless you. Whatever you can do to figure this out, Ben, hopefully you can. Thank you. That's my 4-minute speech. Anybody else wish to speak? Okay. Move on to R1, resolution of appointment of board and committee members. Mr. Clerk, would you like to read the names?
For the August 16th resolution for the Central City Redevelopment Advisory Board, Christina Robinson, nominated by Commissioner Glassman. Joseph Maka, nominated by Commissioner Glassman. Public Art and Placement Advisory Board, Martha Gutierrez Steinkamp, nominated by Commissioner Moritas. Sustainability Advisory Board, Matthew McIntosh, nominated by Vice Mayor Sorensen. Planning and Zoning Board, Patrick McTeague, nominated by Vice Mayor Sorensen. Cemetery System Board of Trustees, Richard Kurtz, nominated by Commissioner McKenzie. Citizens Police Review Board, Antonia Johnson, nominated by Commissioner McKenzie. Community Service Boards, Elizabeth Capito, nominated by Commissioner Glassman. And for tonight's resolution, Affordable Housing Advisory Committee, Keith Costello, nominated by Commissioner Glassman. Aviation Advisory Board, Kevin McElhaney, nominated by Mayor Trantalis. Civil Service Board, Felicia Armstrong, nominated by Mayor Trantalis. Community Appearance Board, Lori Hamlin, nominated by Commissioner Glassman. Community Service Boards, Christy Rice, nominated by Commissioner Glassman. Nicole Patalano-Bice, nominated by Commissioner Moritas. William Jason Dunn, nominated by Commissioner Moritas. Economic Development Advisory Board, Enrique Bargioni, nominated by Mayor Trantalis. Education Advisory Board, Dania Perloff, nominated by Commissioner Glassman. Marine Advisory Board, Michael Boyer, nominated by Mayor Trantalis. And Sustainability Advisory Board, Robert Douse, nominated by Commissioner Glassman, and that rounds it out.
Thank you. Are there any additional names to be nominated? There being none, would someone like to introduce the resolution?
Introduced.
Please call the roll.
A resolution of the City Commission of the City of Fort Lauderdale, Florida, appointing or nominating, if applicable, board and committee members as set forth in the exhibit attached here to and made a part hereof. Vice Mayor Sorensen?
Yes.
Commissioner Moritas?
Yes.
Commissioner Glassman?
Yes.
Commissioner McKenzie?
Yes.
Mayor Trentalis?
Yes, and I'd like to thank all those people who have volunteered to be part of the advisory board of those committees. Thank you for your commitment and on behalf of the city of Fort Lauderdale. R2, this is a resolution approving a request for a special permit to extend construction hours for the Broward County Convention Center Hotel Development Project to the requirements of Section 17-10, construction of large or complex projects. This extends the noise allowance up till 10 p.m. Is that correct, Mr. City Manager?
That's correct.
So this particular item piqued my attention because, as you all know, the convention center building the hotel is beginning to materialize, and but I haven't seen the bypass road doing anything. So I asked Mr. Fajardo to provide to us, and he did, an email to me. Insofar as I wanted to make sure that the bypass road was a condition precedent before they would ever get a certificate of occupancy for the hotel. And it appears that, correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Fajardo, that before they can get a certificate of occupancy for their hotel, they have to complete the bypass road. Is that correct? Mr. Fajardo is nodding his head for the record. So that hotel cannot be operational until that bypass road is completed. We all understanding that? Okay. Okay, so do I hear someone like to introduce, wait a minute, there's no public hearing there. Okay, someone like to introduce the resolution?
Introduced.
Please call the roll.
A resolution of the City Commission of the City of Fort Lauderdale, Florida, authorizing the approval of a special permit to extend construction hours for the Broward County Convention Center Hotel Development subject to the requirements of Section 17-10 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Fort Lauderdale, Florida, and providing for an effective date. Vice Mayor Sorensen?
Yes.
Commissioner Moritas?
Yes.
Commissioner Glassman?
Yes.
Commissioner McKenzie? Mayor Trentalis?
Yes, and that resolution is now approved. Now we have the quasi judicial resolution approving the vacation of a utility easement located at 1627 East Lake Drive. Anyone wishing to speak must be sworn in. Commission will announce any site visits, communications, or expert opinions received and making them a part of the record. I have a couple people who've signed in to speak, but I think for questions only, Mr. Shine, right? Do you have a presentation to make?
Good evening, Mayor. Andrew Shine, representing the property owner. Not a presentation, but I would like to request that the conditions in this ordinance be removed because usually, very brief background, usually when we go for a utility easement vacation, there are utilities in the area. Then we have to relocate or remove the utilities and then go back to the city engineer to record what's called an engineer's certificate, which effectuates the ordinance. In this case, there are no utilities within the area. They've already been removed, and the utility letters in here back that up. So it would save about a month-and-a-half long process of getting an engineer's certificate recorded if this ordinance can become effective immediately instead of conditioned.
So what's your ask?
My ask is that the two conditions contained in, I believe it's section 3 of the ordinance, be removed and that the ordinance become effective upon adoption.
We okay with that, Mr.? Having a little sidebar here. Hello?
Alan,
The only issue with that, I know the letter says there's no utilities there, but I think we had an incident before where we did do that to skip the step, and we actually found there was a utility. So we should just go ahead and, I would recommend you continue with the process so that we don't run into this situation again. That would be my recommendation.
I completely understand, and that's fine.
Okay, so what are we voting on then?
The ordinance as drafted.
It is?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. Commissioner Moritas, do you have any disclosures?
I don't think so. Do I?
No, this is I do have a presentation if you want. It's a very simple utility easement. It's been under a house. Okay.
Yeah. So, no, I don't.
Commissioner McKenzie?
None.
I have none. Do you have any?
No disclosures.
None.
No one on the panel. Okay, someone like to move to close public hearing?
Moved.
Second.
So moved and seconded. Please call the roll.
Vice Mayor Sorensen.
Yes.
Commissioner Moritas.
Yes.
Commissioner Glassman.
Yes.
Commissioner McKenzie. Mayor Trentalles.
Yes, and public hearing is now closed. Would someone like to introduce the
Introduced.
resolution? It's been introduced.
A resolution of the City Commission of the City of Fort Lauderdale, Florida, vacating that certain 10-foot wide platted utility easement centered on lots 8 and 9, Block 6, Harbor Beach, Unit 2, according to the plat thereof recorded in Plat Book 21 and page 18 of the Public Records of Broward County, Florida, located north of East Lake Drive, south of Sylvan Lake, west of Seabreeze Boulevard, and east of West Lake Drive, all said lands situated, lying, and being in the City of Fort Lauderdale, Broward County, Florida. Vice Mayor Sorensen.
Yes.
Commissioner Moritas.
Yes.
Commissioner Glassman.
Yes.
Commissioner McKenzie. Mayor Trentalles.
Yes, and the resolution is approved. Congratulations, Mr. Shine. This is another quasi-judicial resolution approving plat known as 2050 Cypress Creek, located at 2050 Northwest 62nd Street, West Cypress Creek Holdings LLC. Anyone wishing to speak must be sworn in. The commission will announce any site visits, communications, or expert opinions received and make them a part of the record. I have one person who signed up to speak, but I think Mr. Laughlin is just here for questions. Where's Mr. Laughlin? There you are. Just for questions, okay. Anyone have any questions, any disclosures?
No.
Commissioner Moraes, Commissioner McKenzie? None from me?
None.
None.
None for the rest of the panel, okay. Would someone like to move to close public hearing?
Moved.
Second.
It's been moved to second. Please call the roll.
Vice Mayor Sorensen.
Yes.
Commissioner Moritas.
Yes.
Commissioner Glassman.
Yes.
Commissioner McKenzie.
Yes.
Mayor Trentalles.
Yes, and the public hearing is now closed. Would someone like to introduce the resolution?
Introduced.
And that's for approval.
Yes.
A resolution of the City Commission of the City of Fort Lauderdale, Florida, approving a plat entitled 2050 Cypress Creek and providing for an effective date. Vice Mayor Sorensen.
Yes.
Commissioner Moritas.
Yes.
Commissioner Glassman.
Yes.
Commissioner McKenzie.
Yes.
Mayor Trentalles.
Yes, and the resolution is now approved. Moving on to R5, this is a quasi-judicial resolution for development permit application requesting an affordable housing height bonus incentive and alternative design for mixed-use, mixed-income development called the Arcadian at 640 Northwest 7th Avenue. Anyone wishing to speak must be sworn in, and the commissioner will announce any site visits, communications, or expert opinions received and make them a part of the record. I don't have anyone signed up to speak. Just want to make sure that wasn't mixed in. Did you sign up to speak? And your name is? I don't have you down, but
Okay.
just turn around and swear to the clerk that you.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the Commission. Debbie Orshevsky here on behalf of the applicant. Eyal Peretz is with us. We have our architect, our planner. We have a presentation if you'd like to see a brief overview of the project as proposed.
Is this for or against the resolution?
This is for the Arcadian, for the additional height for the development on Sistrunk, on the northeast corner of Sistrunk and 7th Avenue.
All right, does anyone have any objection to this resolution?
No.
No.
Okay. Since no one has specifically signed up to speak, would someone like to please move to close public hearing?
Moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Please call the roll.
Vice Mayor Sorensen.
Yes.
Commissioner Moritas. Commissioner Glassman.
Yes.
Commissioner McKenzie. Mayor Trentalles.
Yes, and public hearing is now closed. Would someone like to introduce our?
Introduced.
It's been introduced.
And that's for approval.
Yes.
A resolution of the City Commission of the City of Fort Lauderdale, Florida, approving the issuance of a site plan level 2 development permit for an alternative design and height bonus for the development of an 85-foot, 8-story, 480 dwelling unit, 15,235 square feet of commercial space, mixed-use, mixed-income project known as the Arcadian, located at 640 Northwest 7th Avenue, Fort Lauderdale, Florida, in the Northwest Regional Activity Center Mixed-Use East Zoning District. Vice Mayor Sorensen.
Yes.
Mayor, do we have to do disclosures? I'm sorry to interrupt. I think we have to do disclosures.
I thought we did, but we did.
No, we didn't. That was the last one.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
I don't have any.
You have no disclosures, no disclosures. I have
None.
I don't recall.
I have site visit and also conversation with Ms. Olszewski and Mr. Peretz on November 18th, 2021.
Commissioners, Vice Mayor?
None.
Just out of caution, I will say I had disclosures with conversations with Ms. Olszewski and Mr. Peretz, but I just don't recall specifically, but just erring on the side of caution, I'm just going to say I did. So let us continue with the roll.
Vice Mayor Sorensen,
Yes.
Commissioner Moritas,
Yes.
Commissioner Glassman.
Yes.
Commissioner McKenzie. Mayor Trentalis.
Yes, and the resolution is now approved. R6, quasi-judicial resolution approving an alternative design for a site plan level 2 development permit, 300 West Broward project. Anyone wishing to speak must be sworn in. The commission will announce any site visits, communications, or expert opinions received and make them a part of the record. Commissioner Moritas, do you have any disclosures?
Yes. Okay. R6, correct? Okay. Let's see. I have a few. 3/5/20, meeting with Stephanie and her client, Stephanie Toothaker. 2/11/21, Stephanie Toothaker. 4/30/21, Stephanie Toothaker, and then 6/27/22, Ms. Toothaker.
Yes, the representative for the applicant.
Okay, I also had conversations with the applicant as well as their representatives regarding this project. Commissioner Glassman?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Several site visits, also conversations with Ms. Toothaker and the client on January 11th, 2022, also June 29th, 2022, and I've had several conversations with residents in the Sailboat Bend Historic District. Thank you.
Vice Mayor?
Yes, with Ms. Toothaker. Thank you.
Ms. Toothaker got around.
Doesn't she always?
Okay.
Yeah.
One person signed up to speak, which is Ms. Toothaker, but I assume it's just to respond to questions. Is there any further questions regarding Ms. Toothaker?
No.
There being none, would someone like to move to close public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
Vice Mayor Sorensen, Commissioner Moritas.
Yes.
Commissioner Glassman.
Yes.
Commissioner McKenzie.
Yes.
Mayor Trentalis.
Yes. Did someone second that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Someone like to introduce the resolution
Introduced.
And that's for approval.
for approval?
Yes, and if I could just say a word, Mayor, because I've spoken to a lot of
Never
folks.
deny you that opportunity.
Actually, I've seen you do it a few times, but that's
Okay.
okay. Very quickly, I've heard a lot of comments about the project, and I just wanted to say that I think this is really going to be a game changer for the entrance to our city when people are coming east on Broward Boulevard. It's a project that definitely makes a statement. You and I, for sure, have talked about this for many years, where we've just said, can't we have some iconic architecture, something that really is a little bit different than what we see many times come forward to us? And I've been hearing those kind of comments from folks, actually folks that I'm surprised are saying, yeah, I really like this project. So I just think that it is going to make a statement, and I'm
Are those
pleased.
your initials, Glassman? I don't know. I can just.
What do you see?
I don't
Oh.
know. Okay.
No, that's going to be in the next site plan amendment, but that's okay. Don't stop ruining the secrets. But seriously, I have heard a lot of good positive comments about the architecture, and people are excited to see this structure. And I think it will make a big difference and really be very transformative for this section of Broward Boulevard. That's it from me, Mayor.
Okay, very good. Would someone like to introduce the resolution?
I think it was, yes.
Just want to make sure.
Thank you.
Okay. Please call the roll.
A resolution of the City Commission of the City of Fort Lauderdale, Florida, approving the issuance of a site plan level 2 development permit for an alternative design that meets the overall intent of the downtown master plan for the development of a 956-unit mixed-use residential, commercial, and restaurant project known as 300 West Broward, located at 300 West Broward Broward Boulevard, Fort Lauderdale, Florida, in the Downtown Regional Activity Center, City Center Zoning District. Vice Mayor Sorensen?
No.
Commissioner Moritas?
Yes.
Commissioner Glassman?
Yes.
Commissioner McKenzie? Yes. Mayor Trentalis?
Yes, and the resolution is now approved. Congratulations. Good luck with it.
Thank you very much. Thank you on behalf of my clients, and thank you to all of you for your support.
Hope it's
Thank
the
you.
beginning of more creative projects in that area. Thank you. So R7, a resolution approving a City of Fort Lauderdale fiscal year 2022 not-for-profit grant participation agreement with the Fort Lauderdale Women's Club, the amount of $138,000. This is for the new roof, I believe.
Mayor, that's correct.
Someone like to introduce the resolution?
Introduced.
Please call the roll.
A resolution of the City Commission of the City of Fort Lauderdale, Florida, approving a City of Fort Lauderdale fiscal year 2022 not-for-profit grant participation agreement with the Fort Lauderdale Women's Club, Inc., authorizing execution of the grant participation agreement and providing for severability and an effective date. Vice Mayor Sorensen?
Yes.
Commissioner Moritas?
Yes.
Commissioner Glassman?
Yes, and I wanted to thank Joanne Smith for being the caretaker of this building for so many years, caring so much about it. This building is one of the most...
Spreading those blue tarps on the roof every year?
What she has done with the landscaping around the building and just sticking with it under very difficult circumstances. This is an incredibly significant building in the history of Fort Lauderdale, so I just wanted to say thank you. I so appreciate what you do. Thank you. That's a yes.
Commissioner McKenzie?
Yes.
Mayor Trentalis?
Yes. Thank you. And that is now approved. I hope we can get a permit.
It's the one day. It's a one-day walkthrough.
Yeah.
Roof,
R8,
not pool.
food, yeah. Roof.
Roof.
Resolution authorizing the city manager to execute a letter of intent and authorizing negotiations of a proposed exchange agreement with the United States Government General Services Administration. Wow.
So in summary, what this means is that there's the opportunity as the federal building is conceived. This will pave the way for negotiating an agreement that we can build and operate a parking structure at that location, retain revenues, et cetera, from it. Pro forma works, and this would be something that Mr. Rogers would undertake if this passes.
But we get the money for it, right?
That's correct. Yeah, we would only embark upon this if it's a money maker, not if it's a money loser.
Right.
And this one is with a pro forma would indicate that it will, in fact, pay for itself and make money to a point of a guaranteed return. And then the GSA would bid it out for somebody to continue to operate it. That could either be us or anybody else that would compete after that return is realized.
Got it.
And Mayor, not only are we going to make money off this, but it also makes this project viable for GSA. In other words, given their budgetary limitations and need for parking, they were in a really tough spot to actually make this work. And so by us coming to this agreement, it's going to allow the courthouse to kind of move forward. So it's a big partnership, and I think one that really works out well for us as a city. So
Okay.
thanks. I'd like to introduce it if that's all right.
Resolution's been introduced. Please call, anyone else have any other questions? There being none, please call the roll.
A resolution of the City Commission of the City of Fort Lauderdale, Florida, authorizing the city manager on behalf of the City of Fort Lauderdale to execute and deliver a letter of intent and to negotiate a proposed exchange agreement with the United States Government General Services Administration to execute any and all documents necessary or incidental to the letter of intent, subject to the limitations set forth herein and provided for an effective date. Vice Mayor Sorensen?
Yes.
Commissioner Moritas?
Yes.
Commissioner Glassman?
Yes.
Commissioner McKenzie?
Yes.
Mayor Trentalis?
Yes, and R8 is now approved. R9, did I have the impression that was going to be taken off?
No.
It's significantly changed, but I don't know if it's taken off. We'll hear from Ms. Toothaker.
Toothaker, do you want to explain what R9 is?
Yes, Mayor, thank you. Mayor Commissioner Stephanie Toothaker on behalf of 3000 Alhambra, KTC Breeze, now known as Celine. So we had submitted a site plan site plan amendment application to the city of Fort Lauderdale that contained a number of changes to dimensional standards and to architecture of the building. Upon meeting with the Central Beach Alliance and some of our neighbors, we were advised that they were not happy with any of the architectural improvements that we were proposing. They were also not happy with any of the dimensional changes. So we have formally withdrawn all of those requests, all of them. There are no architectural changes. There are no dimensional changes to the original approved PDD. The only changes that we are still requesting, we are requesting a reduction in the number of units from 215 to 196. So we're removing 19 units. We are requesting to increase the restaurant and retail use by 500 square feet from 5,150 to 5,615. And then there's a corresponding reduction in the private parking spaces, not the public parking spaces, those are still included, but the corresponding parking that goes with the reduction of the 19 units. So a reduction from 497 to 480. All of the dimensional amendment requests and all of the architectural amendment requests are withdrawn.
Does that in any way decrease the amount of square footage of the total building?
Of the what?
Does that in any way decrease the amount of square footage in the total building?
No. No, the building.
So
the
you're just
height of the building
rearranging
does
some
not
of the,
change, just
okay.
rearranging.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, so since this is a quasi-judicial resolution, I'm asking for disclosures. So Commissioner Moritas, do you have any disclosures you'd like to?
I guess we have disclosures from a while ago, but maybe just the recent ones, June 27th of this year, 2022, with Ms. Toothaker? You want me to go? Yeah.
Representative?
Was that a question? I apologize.
No, it wasn't. We're doing disclosures.
Oh, sorry. I misunderstood. I'm sorry. Someone was talking to me.
What's
Yeah.
who's next, Commissioner?
Well, is that it? Was that it?
Yeah, we're good.
Okay,
Yep.
so Commissioner McKenzie?
I already did it.
I didn't understand what, I thought you were talking to her. Okay,
I'm just saying with the representative.
okay. I did have meetings with the representative of the project, Stephanie Toothaker. Commissioner Glassman?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. So the same from 2018 to 2020, I had 13 disclosures prior to that. Then June 29th, 2022 with Ms. Toothaker, and I've had several site visits and several discussions, phone calls, text, emails with board members from the Central Beach Alliance.
Vice Mayor?
With Ms. Toothaker.
Okay. So we have a few people who've signed up to speak. Start out with James Novick, followed by James Novick. I guess he wants to speak twice. Stephanie Toothaker, who's already spoken, and Richard DeWitt. So, Mr. Novick, having heard some of the changes that have been made, do you have any further comment? Come on up. It's been a long time. Want to see your face.
So I'm Jim Novick. I represent Alhambra Place Condominium Association. Yeah, we've been having some hot and heavy conversations over the last couple of weeks. And I appreciate the withdrawal of all those items. They seem like small changes probably to a lot of people. But as I told the representatives, those small changes, we worked really hard with the community, with the developer, and with the attorneys to get those small changes that actually make big changes to our property. So we appreciate the withdrawal a lot. So I'm just hoping that maybe in the future, this doesn't become the last meeting before everybody leaves for 6 weeks. I flew back for 6 hours today on a plane to be here because it meant that much to me and to our building to make sure the right thing happens in the community. And that's one thing I want to leave you with is the thing that I got excited about when we started working with Coulter and with the representatives with you all, the commissioners and the mayor, and with our building is we were all trying to be reasonable. And because of that reasonable approach, I think we came out with something that's beautiful. So from Alhambra's perspective, we don't want you to change it. We think it looks great. We appreciate what you did, and we want to be great neighbors. Just a courtesy return. Let's not drop things on us last minute. I need time to think about things. I had to hire professionals to kind of chase down all these changes. And in the end, I'm thankful for the outcome, but getting here was a little bit rocky. So thank you for your time tonight.
All right, and thank you for your commitment and sacrifice. We appreciate you making the effort, Jim.
Mayor, so I want to just be clear. Are we actually, we're not considering R9? That is totally off the table?
Not necessarily.
We're still requesting the changes that I enumerated.
Okay, so R9 is still there. So
Yep.
if you don't mind, so Ms. Toothaker, I just want to do this because we are still voting on R9. And so, but we've been told that everything is off the table except what we just heard. So just for the record, and I might even ask Anthony to corroborate this because this is what I've been hearing from the neighborhood over the last couple of weeks. So there was the issue of a podium extension making it actually longer. That's happening or not happening?
We are not extending the podium, no.
So the podium is not extending.
Podium is not being extended.
Are the buildings changing locations in any way, shape, or form?
Buildings are not moving at all.
Is the setback changing any way, shape, or form?
No. The
Side setback, front setback, rear setback, everything?
underground was always 21.3 feet, and the setback above ground was always 20 feet. Those are not changing.
Okay, and what about the reduction of the rear yard setback from 20.6 to 20.2?
No reduction in the rear.
Not
setback.
happening?
None.
Okay, that's good too. So then, what I just want to ask now is because I think that when we get to R10, and correct me if I'm wrong, and Anthony, you can help me with this as well.
Not on R10.
Okay, I'm leading up to it because I want to say that some of what was presented to us in the developer's agreement for R10, I want to make sure is consistent now with all of these changes and does not have, because it refers to a site plan in Exhibit C, and I just want to make sure we're consistent and we know what site plan, because I didn't see it in the backup, but I want to make sure that we are consistent with it so that there are no questions going forward.
Right. So the developer's agreement references the site plan, meaning the site plan amendment that was submitted, but we are withdrawing that other than the changes that I just enumerated. So the exhibit would refer back to the original approved PDD site plan, with the exception of the number of units, the square footage, and the parking.
So the developer's agreement, when we get to it, will be the October 20th, 2020 site plan that the commission approved.
With
The original
exception
site
of
plan.
with the exception of the three things I just listed.
With the exception of the three things.
That's correct.
Now, even though many people might look at the changes that were before us originally and say, that seems kind of insignificant, why wasn't this approved administratively? So if there are changes going forward, any changes, and if they are administrative, I would just ask for the courtesy of a heads up to know that, guess what, there are some administrative changes, because I want to make sure that we're as transparent as possible so that the neighborhood has a chance to understand them, even if they are administrative and they're not going to come back to the city commission. So can we make sure that that happens?
Commissioner, we will commit that we will not seek any administrative changes unless we have approval from our neighbors. We will, if we do, we believe, I just want to put on the record, we believe that the architectural changes were improvements.
Yes.
They were not meant to make the building cheaper. They were overall improvements to the building. They were things that the architects felt strongly that were better in terms of, glazing and things shining off the building into other buildings. But that being said, the neighbors weren't happy with them. We will commit that we will not seek any changes without consultation and approval from the neighbors.
Okay, that's great. Thank you. And then, Anthony, I just need you to corroborate everything that we just heard from the applicant, because don't get me wrong, I'm doing this because I just want to make sure that we can hopefully avoid what we just went through for the last 3 weeks. And I just want to make sure that it's smooth sailing, because I really do believe that the neighborhood worked so hard to get to the point of approval of the buildings. And And it's a gorgeous project, and I think everyone's going to be thrilled. And I am concerned, and that's why we need to do the developers agreement, because correct me if I'm wrong, if we don't, then we can't go vertical, we can't have any concrete pours. We need to have that developers agreement, or we lose the whole summer. And we can't afford to do that. But I just want, Anthony, from the city's perspective, can you corroborate everything that Ms. Toothaker just said from the applicant side so that everyone is on the same page?
Yes, Commissioner. Anthony Fajardo, Director of Development Services. Everything Ms. Toothaker stated on the record is correct. So I was just talking to Dwayne Spence with the City Attorney's Office. We'll make sure that what is approved here tonight is reflected correctly in the developers agreement, because there is a threshold that pushed it originally to the City Commission, which was one of the changes in the dimensional requests. But now that that's taken off the table, it really is just what she said, the reduction in the number of units, the increase in non-residential square footage, and the reduction in parking. So we'll just make sure that that's all buttoned up and correctly shown in the agreement.
And the developers agreement will simply reflect the originally approved site plan?
With those changes, yes.
With those changes that were just mentioned. Okay, great. So I thank both of you for that, and I think we're good.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any further questions or comments? Okay, there being none, has R9, where are we on R9? Do we close public hearing? We have not closed public hearing. So do I hear a motion to close public hearing?
So moved.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Please call the roll.
Vice Mayor Sorensen?
Yes.
Commissioner Moritas?
Yes.
Commissioner Glassman?
Yes.
Commissioner McKenzie? Mayor Trentalis?
Yes, so public hearing is now closed on R9. Would someone like to introduce the resolution?
Introduced.
And that's approving?
Yes.
As amended.
As amended.
A resolution of the City Commission of the City of Fort Lauderdale, Florida, approving amendments to the development plan associated with the approved planned development district project formerly known as 3000 Alhambra, now known as Celine, located at 3000 Alhambra Street, Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Vice Mayor Sorensen?
Yes.
Commissioner Moritas?
Wait, before we vote, Mr. DeWitt, I just saw your request to speak. Do you want to speak?
That's fine, Mayor, based upon Stephanie's representation.
You're good? Okay. I apologize. It got stuck with the other things, so I'm sorry. Okay, thank you.
Sorry, also, CDA was going to talk, but I'm still confused on whether they should talk on 9 or 10.
We're not on 10 yet.
So it doesn't have to come at 9.
9 and 10 are two separate items, and you'll get to speak on 10. Yep. No, I'm good. I'll please proceed with the vote.
Vice Mayor Sorensen?
Yes.
Commissioner Moritas?
Yes.
Commissioner Glassman?
Yes.
Commissioner McKenzie?
Yes.
Mayor Trentalis?
Yes, and R9 has now been approved. R10, this is a resolution approving a development, operation, and maintenance agreement between the City of Fort Lauderdale and KT Seabreeze Atlantic LLC for the development known as Celine, formerly known as Alhambra Planned Development District. This is not quasi-judicial. I have a number of people sign up to speak. Jim, you want to come up and speak? Followed by Mr. DeWitt, followed by Maurizio Bravo, only for questions, and Matthew Picard, also on behalf of the developer.
This is the last time I'll be here tonight, I promise. Just the representing the CBA, I'm the vice president. I work with Bill Brown, who couldn't be here. I think he's finally taken a vacation. But one of the things, and we did talk to the developer earlier, so I think it's going to be taken care of, but we had asked for artwork to be included, and it was included in the original design, but for whatever reason, through the iterations, it's
What kind of artwork?
I'm sorry?
This.
A statue of Jim Novick?
But I don't really know, actually. As a matter of fact, we were talking about that today. I'm not really quite sure what kind of artwork.
Well, I think we agreed that it would go through a process, but it's on, Mayor, it's on the public land at the southwest corner of Sebastian and Seabreeze.
Yes.
And the CBA just wants to make sure that that's clear in the developers agreement, Section 4, under the required public improvements, that it's specifically mentioned that there will be public art on that
Okay,
space.
okay. What is this?
Is that okay?
Perfect.
Ms. Truthaker agrees with that? Sure, please.
Wait a minute. Mr. Novick, have you completed your comments?
Well, does that make us registered, or you all know that that's what we want, right? So we're just clear on that.
Okay.
Even
All
if it's
right.
not me, I'm still good
Okay.
with that.
Very good.
But I wanted to
All right,
make sure
Stephanie?
that, Mayor, I just want to make sure that it's okay from the applicant's side that we'll be specific.
On behalf of KTC Breeze, Celine, we have committed to it. We've committed to it in writing. I don't believe it belongs in the developer's agreement.
Okay.
But I've committed to it in writing. I wrote an email to the president of the CBA again today, recommitting to that commitment to purchase and include a piece of public art on the, it's on the other, there's two public parcels. It's on the second public parcel that's on the corner of, that's right in front of the Wedgewood condominium. So yes, we've
Great.
committed to that.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Now, Stephanie, you've signed up to speak. Is there anything else you'd like to add to this?
No, thank you,
Okay.
Mayor.
All right. Mr. DeWitt,
Thank you, Mayor, again.
you're good?
Two figures, representation of artists.
Okay, very good. And Maurizio, you're just here on behalf of the developer. And Matthew Picard, you're also here on behalf of the developer. Is there anything further anybody else would like to speak to on this issue? Okay, there being none. Any questions from the commission? Someone like to introduce the resolution?
Introduced.
And it will have to be as amended because of R9, specifically Exhibit 3 to the actual development agreement
Okay,
to reflect the changes.
got it.
As amended, a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Fort Lauderdale, Florida, approving a planned development district development operation and maintenance agreement with KTC Breeze Atlantic LLC, authorizing the city manager to execute such agreement together with any supplemental documents in connection therewith and providing for an effective date. Vice Mayor Sorensen?
Yes.
Commissioner Moritas?
Yes.
Commissioner Glassman?
Yes.
Commissioner McKenzie?
Yes.
Mayor Trentalis?
Yes, and R10 is now approved. Okay, now on to public hearings. Thank you, gentlemen, for being here tonight. We appreciate your patience. This is a public hearing, a quasi-judicial ordinance approving a public purpose use and structure, 191,000 square foot police facility. This is anyone wishing to speak must be sworn in. The commission will announce any site visits, communications, or expert opinions received and make them a part of the record. Mr. City Manager, what is the purpose of this on here now?
So let me maybe look to Mr. Fajardo. I know one of these items approves this project as a public purpose, and another one assembles a couple of projects together, a couple parcels together for the correct zoning. So let me let.
Is this to change the zoning?
It's for relief from the setback requirements.
Good evening, Mayor Anthony Fajardo. So you have I think three things that are going on here. We have a rezoning that's taking place. We have a public purpose request because there are certain aspects of the CF zoning district that the new design needs relief from. And this is everything that's been vetted through the process in public outreach. And then I believe there's a vacation of a,
Yeah, on the next agenda.
on the next agenda, there's a vacation of easement. So the public purpose process follows the same process as a rezoning. So you have multiple public readings and then finally adoption.
Okay. All right, now, so do I have any disclosures? Commissioner Moritas?
No.
You probably had some disclosures on the police facility.
Well, do we have to disclose with staff that we've?
That would be the only real disclosures I would think you would have.
Yeah.
You don't have to disclose those.
Okay, all right.
So-
Commissioner McKenzie? None here?
The staff and ACOM.
None.
Okay. So, do I hear a motion to close the public hearing?
Moved.
Second.
Now, before we do that, Mark Dickerman, you asked to speak. And Mike Vondermeulen, you're just here to answer questions, Mike. Same with Vanique Virgo, just here to answer questions. Okay, Mr. Dickerman.
Mayor, Commissioners, I'm just here to support anything
that'll get this project, get the totals on the ground and get it going. I am personally, this project does affect me as I live across the street from the police station. And I'm looking forward to sitting in my dining room watching them tear down this sick building and come up with a new one. So whatever it takes to get it going, let's do it.
Okay.
All right? Thank you.
Very good, thank you. All right, so this is a motion to close public hearing. Please call the roll.
Vice Mayor Sorensen?
Yes.
Commissioner Moritas?
Yes.
Commissioner Glassman?
Yes.
Commissioner McKenzie? Mayor Trentalis?
Yes, public hearing is now closed. I hear someone to introduce the ordinance?
Introduced.
An ordinance of the City of Fort Lauderdale, Florida, approving as a public purpose use and structure pursuant to Section 47-18.26 of the City of Fort Lauderdale Unified Land Development Regulations, a 191,000 square foot police facility generally located at 1300 West Broward Boulevard, Fort Lauderdale, Florida, and legally described as all of blocks 117, 118, and 125, together with the vacated streets and alleys lying within said blocks Waverly Place, according to the plat thereof as recorded in Plat Book 2, page 19, Public Records of Dade County, Florida, less right-of-way for West Broward Boulevard, together with the north 855 feet of Lot 7, the north 900 feet of Lot 8, and the north 850 feet of Lot 9, all less right-of-way for West Broward Boulevard, Valentine subdivision, according to the plat thereof, as recorded in Plat Book B, page 29 of the Public Records of Dade County, Florida, said land situate, lying, and being in the city of Fort Lauderdale, Broward County, Florida, granting relief from specific zoning regulations and providing for associated conceptual site plan. Vice Mayor Sorensen?
Yes.
Commissioner Moritas?
Yes.
Commissioner Glassman?
Yes.
Commissioner McKenzie? Mayor Trentalis?
Yes, and PH1 is now approved. So when are we going to have our groundbreaking?
Q4, maybe October-ish timeframe is what's been thrown around here lately. You know, we're watching the inflationary costs of construction and partnering that with the process, but I would say October, we will be in a position where
Okay,
they'll be ready to move forward with the acquisition and buying of the project, so we can do a groundbreaking then.
okay. Okay, there's request to defer our PH2. Ms. Toothaker, do you want to still defer this?
Mayor, yes, please. We are respectfully requesting a deferral. The owner of the building is here. He had not received prior notice of this, and we were asking for time to sit down with the city and talk about the request for historic designation.
Okay. To what date?
At least, I would ask at least through the summer months and maybe not coming back the first meeting. Maybe.
We should go September 6th. September 6th?
That would be fine. Thank you.
September 6th.
Okay, so there's a request to defer. Do I hear a motion to defer PH2 to September 6th?
So moved.
Second, but I have a request, Mayor. I just want to make sure that in the interim period, because this is such a significant building in Fort Lauderdale, I just want to make sure that we're making sure that nothing happens between now and September to this building. So if staff can,
Correct. Nothing will happen.
a red flag on this building, and I've seen stranger things happen. So
Well, he's
you know,
not wrong. He's not wrong.
No, I'm not wrong. I just want to make sure that staff's aware that there's a flag somewhere on this building at City Hall, so that when we reconvene in, what is it, September?
September 6th.
Yes, that the building is still standing.
We absolutely commit that there are no plans and we will not submit any applications. It's currently operating as Ferguson's.
That's great. I'm gonna, just in case, buy a lot of stuff over the next few weeks there, just to make sure they keep going.
That's where I bought all my stuff.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Now, Mr. Guzman, did you want to speak on this regard or just wait for the deferral? Okay. Okay, motion to defer. Do I hear a second?
Second?
Been moved and seconded. Please call the roll.
Vice Mayor Sorensen?
Yes.
Commissioner Moritas?
Yes.
Commissioner Glassman?
Yes.
Commissioner McKenzie? Mayor Trentalis?
Yes, and the
Thank
item's
you
been
very much.
deferred to September 6th. Page 3, public hearing and adoption of resolution approving the Parks, Recreation, Beaches Advisory Board's recommendations for approval of lighting project at George English Tennis Center and Beach Community Center Rooftop Park. We have several people signed up to speak. William Schneider, are you here? Mr. Schneider? No. And Thomas Rebeck? Mr. Rebeck? Good evening. You're on.
Good evening. I'm Thomas Rebeck. I live at the Riva Condominium Building at 1180 North Federal Highway. I'm in Unit 601. This is in Fort Lauderdale, 33304. Since July 2018, I have been in correspondence with most of you about the problem of the glare of the lights produce, the problem that the lights produce from the George English Park. I was informed that this item would be on the agenda at tonight's meeting, and Phil Thornburg told me on May 13th, 2022, this past May, that this would be on the agenda. So I'm grateful to speak to this issue with you tonight. When my husband and I moved into Riva condominiums in February of 2018, we did not realize how the glare of the lights across the Middle River from Riva would affect our quality of life. Although the lights are timed to go off at 9 p.m., they are a distraction from dusk until they are off. This is especially a problem when the sun goes down at around 6 p.m. in the winter, as we wish to have family and friends for cocktails and dinner on our balcony. It may sound as if only our apartment is affected by this, but in fact, it's bothersome to a great many residents that face the park on the east side of Riva, as well as residents of neighbors at the East Point Tower residences. Many of them have lauded me for addressing this problem with you through these past 4 years. Phil Thornburg has not given me the particulars on the design of the lights, but I hope they would be lights that do not produce any glare, but are adequate for the tennis players. Since the tennis courts are not in constant use, I would suggest that the lights be put on a system where they would light up only at the times when the courts are being utilized. Also, I assume that the new lights would have an energy-saving design to save on the electrical bill of the city of Fort Lauderdale. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Thank you. Mr. Thornburg, do you have any comments on that? Are you going to interfere with the quality of life of the people that live in these luxury apartments?
I can say, Mayor, that the new lights will be the new LED lights, and there'll be definitely a lot less spillage, if any at all.
Will they be directed away from the building?
No, they won't be directed away from the building, but they'll be directed more down, and with the new LEDs, it'll be, the spillage will not be there like you have with the lights that have been there forever. You can't light the courts just from one side of we can't put them all on the west and face them to the east. You need to have lights surrounding the courts all the way around on all four sides to get to adequately light the courts. So I can't say that there won't be any lights that would be, aimed, I guess, towards the west, towards their building, but I can say that they'll be much more efficient and they'll be aimed down and not have the old style that kind of provide the glare, which I understand, and I've seen the pictures, and I know exactly what he's talking about, so that's why we're doing this, and that's why we're bringing it forward now. And kind of, since we have our own lighting contractor, we can do this outside of our program manager and get it done a lot quicker.
At what time do they shut off?
9 o'clock when the park closes.
Okay, thank you. No one else has signed up to speak. Anyone wish to speak on this matter? Okay, there being none,
Mayor, there's also a second part to this. If maybe we could talk about the Beach Community Center rooftop park?
yes.
Thanks, Mayor.
Yeah,
Yeah,
sign up to
Like,
speak, so you're welcome to speak.
right. No, I just was hoping that
Do you like a recap?
Commissioner Moritas and Phil could talk about the details on this, because I've heard a couple little rumblings and just,
Rumbles.
thank you.
Yes, I've had numerous meetings with the business owners, the neighbors on the intercoastal across from this So the proposal is for a raised park structure raised over the current parking so we don't lose parking. Actually, we've worked with Ben Rogers also, and Ben said that we should actually gain parking, how we're going to reconfigure this.
This is the lot, just the Beach Community Center parking lot, just south of the building.
It is right next to the building. It
Right.
is above the current parking,
Okay.
next to the Beach Community
So
Center.
this structure will be built above the
It'll be
parking.
raised. So it'll just be the top level, so you'll take either an elevator or stairs, depending on your ability, to the top. And the top will be mostly like a game lawn with some programming that can come in and out. The neighbors still have the opportunity to work with Parks and Rec to design the final park amenities, whether it's an exercise stations around the perimeter, the landscaping, the lighting. We want to be sensitive to lighting also, because it is next to condos, just like the gentleman at Riva stated. It will not have loud music or anything like that. We definitely talked about that. The businesses actually want the music and food and all that to stay at the businesses, so this won't be that type of park. It'll be just during the day. Actually, we're not going to have lighting, Phil, because it's just going to be during the day hours, correct? I think that's what we decided. Maybe if there's any lighting, it's like cafe lighting or something like that, but it's not the type of lighting we were talking about at George English, because it will not be open past dark. Isn't that what we decided?
There'll be some, some small lights around the area in the evening time. I would guess, Commissioner, I mean, we can talk more about that. I would think you would want it past dusk in the wintertime because, again.
Maybe in the winter, okay.
Yeah, if it's getting dark at 5:30, 6 o'clock, people may want to go up there and sit and hang out for a while.
Okay, maybe just for.
We can work with the neighborhood on the hours and things like that.
Okay. So
We'll have something up there.
So those details aren't final, but so Commissioner Glassman, I've worked with the Galt Condominium Association. They were on the meetings, all the businesses around 32nd, 33rd, and then once again the condos right next to it. And it was really just there were a couple rumblings certainly, but we addressed their concerns, and it was really the majority of the neighbors and businesses and even the Galt Condo Association, because they use the Beach Community Center. They're excited about it. So that's why we're bringing it forward. And this was already allocated in the park bond, so the funding was in there.
Is this coming, this is coming out of the Parks bond?
Correct.
And I'm looking for the cost.
About $3.5 million was allocated in the parks bond. I don't know what the final cost is, and it'd probably be based on the final design that we come up with the neighbors
$3.5 million was allocated
in the parks bond.
under what line item or under what park?
It was its own line item, so it wasn't like a District 1 park. It wasn't, well, I should back up. It's not out of like the $7 million for acquiring new parkland, but it was its own line item somewhere in there that Phil.
So Phil, how is that? Because the Parks bond had, from the 2016 Parks Master Plan, parks and improvements in parks. So obviously this parking lot was not a park. So where is the financing for this project?
So it's in the Beach Community Center. It was noted under rooftop park. So it was listed on there as and it actually says parking structure / rooftop park.
Okay, so for the Beach Community Center.
Right.
At $3.5 million?
Well, it's $3 million for that, and it's $3.5 million for everything. So that includes lighting, solar panels, some other patio furniture, things like that. So in total, it's about $3.5 million for the site, and it was estimated at $3 million at the time for the park itself.
Okay, great. Thanks. Thank you, Commissioner.
Yep.
I'll just walk right over.
Yes, and we'll have the Galt beach shuttles coming back, right? So you can, well, I don't know if that goes to you. Will that go to you? Probably not.
I was kind of hoping it was going to be an indoor tennis facility, but I guess that didn't.
No, well, they do have indoor pickleball at the Beach Community Center and indoor.
Just one court, and it's
ping pong.
closed for the summer.
Is it closed because of the camp? But they do have it. I know everybody
That's when a lot of people would like it because it's so hot outside now.
That's a good point. Maybe, all right.
Okay, anything further on PH3? There being none, would someone like to introduce the resolution?
Introduced?
It's been introduced.
A resolution of the City Commission of the City of Fort Lauderdale, Florida, approving a recommendation from the Parks, Recreation, and Beaches Advisory Board to authorize the lighting project at George English Tennis Center and Beach Community Center Rooftop Park with financing through the Parks and Recreation General Obligation Bond Series 2022 and delegating authority to the city manager to execute all documents and instruments necessary to proceed with financing the lighting project at George English Tennis Center and Beach Community Center Rooftop Park pursuant to the terms and conditions outlined in the City of Fort Lauderdale Resolution numbers 18-261 and 20-08, providing for conflicts, providing for severability, providing for an effective date. Vice Mayor Sorensen?
Yes.
Commissioner Moritas?
Yes.
Commissioner Glassman?
Yes.
Commissioner McKenzie?
Yes.
Mayor Trentalis?
Yes, and PH3 is now approved. PH4, this is a resolution approving a lease agreement for city-owned property located at Southwest 42nd Terrace, unincorporated Florida, pursuant to Section 8.13 of the city charter to Covenant House, Florida. Anyone have any questions? No one signed up to speak.
Mayor, I do have a comment, and this
Do
sort of piggybacks on some of our earlier discussions this afternoon and then tonight. Chris, this is public land, correct?
It is.
Okay, so I just want to say that that's why we have to be so careful when we craft an ordinance or when we craft anything that's going to go forward, because what would happen to projects like this? We wouldn't be able to do this unless we went through a really different process, correct, Alan? Or
Went
am I?
through the process that was advocated by Mary Fertig. This would have to go out to a public vote.
Is that true, Alan?
Unanimous vote.
Well, it depends. I've heard both versions, so it depends.
Yeah.
I have. For the first conversations was referendum, and then now it's supposedly a unanimous vote. I haven't seen the proposed ordinance, so I don't know exactly what they're proposing.
That's what it would say.
Right, but I'm just bringing this up because we have to be cautious and we have to be really clear in knowing what we're doing, or else we might have unintended consequences. That's all I'm saying.
These are intended consequences.
I understand. Well, we could have intended or unintended. So I'm just saying we have to be careful in moving forward with that and not just rush to do something without really thinking everything out. That's all I'm saying. Thank you, Mayor.
All right, no one has signed up to speak on this. Any further questions? If none, would someone please like to introduce the resolution?
Introduced.
It's been introduced.
A resolution of the City Commission of the City of Fort Lauderdale, Florida, authorizing execution of a lease pursuant to Section 8.13 of the City Charter of city-owned property located at Southwest 42nd Terrace, Broward County, Florida, 33317, as more particularly described below, to Covenant House, Florida, Inc., to be used for purposes consistent with the public good for a term of 50 years at an annual rent of $1, subject to further terms and conditions, repealing any and all resolutions in conflict herewith, providing for severability, authorizing execution of the same by the proper city officials, and providing for an effective date. Vice Mayor Sorensen?
Yes.
Commissioner Moritas?
Yes.
Commissioner Glassman?
Yes.
Commissioner McKenzie?
Yes.
Mayor Trentalis?
Yes, and public hearing 4 has now been approved. PH 5, this is a quasi-judicial ordinance approving a rezoning from Boulevard Business, B1, and from residential multifamily mid-rise, medium-high density district to community facility. This is 1300 West Broward Boulevard and 1201 Southwest First Street. Anyone wishing to speak must be sworn in, and the commission will announce any site visits, communications, or expert opinions received and make them a part of the record. Commissioner Moritas, do you have any disclosures?
I'm sorry.
It would be only with staff in this circumstance.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's the police station.
I have none. Commissioner McKenzie?
None.
Commissioner Glassman?
Just staff, thank you.
Just
None.
staff and none, okay. So we have a couple people signed up to speak. Yannick Virgo and Mike Vondermeulen for just questions. Is Yannick Virgo here? You're good? You're a team? Okay. Mike, I haven't seen you in a long time. Nice to see you.
There he is.
We only live 4 blocks away from each other.
You should walk your neighborhood once in a while, Mayor.
I should.
Yes, you
If
should.
I had a dog, I would.
Say hello to the neighbors.
I need a dog. Would someone please move to close public hearing?
Moved.
Second.
Vice Mayor Sorensen?
Yes.
Commissioner Moritas?
Yes.
Commissioner Glassman?
Yes.
Commissioner McKenzie? Mayor Trentalis?
Yes, and public hearing is now closed. Let's see now. Someone like to introduce the resolution?
Mr. Just for clarification, it is an ordinance, so if we could introduce it as an ordinance, that'd be great.
Introduced as an ordinance?
Someone like to introduce the ordinance? Yes.
Introducing the ordinance to approve
Yes.
the ordinance.
What did I say? Resolution?
With ordinance.
I apologize.
I have no idea.
Whatever he said.
Yes, I was just clarifying that it's an ordinance and not a
For
resolution.
the ordinance.
Don't listen to him anymore.
For the ordinance. That's right. A lame duck.
That's for approval.
For approval.
An ordinance amending the Unified Land Development Regulations of the City of Fort Lauderdale, Florida, amending Section 47-1.6.b of the Unified Land Development Regulations through the revision of the official zoning map of the City of Fort Lauderdale and Schedule A revised compilation attached thereto and made by a reference part thereof, so as to rezone from B1 Boulevard Business District to CF Community Facility District, lots 15 through 28, Block 125, Waverly Place, according to the plat thereof as recorded in Plat Book 2, page 19 of the Public Records of Dade County, Florida, and to rezone from residential multifamily mid-rise medium high-density district to Community Facility District, lots 1 through 4, Block 125, Waverly Place, according to the plat thereof as recorded in Plat Book 2, page 19 of the Public Records of Dade County, Florida, located west of Southwest 12th Avenue, north of Southwest 1st Street, east of Southwest 14th Avenue, and south of West Broward Boulevard, all said lands being in the city of Fort Lauderdale, Broward County, Florida. Vice Mayor Sorensen?
Yes.
Commissioner Moritas?
Yes.
Commissioner Glassman?
Yes.
Commissioner McKenzie?
Yes.
Mayor Trentalis?
Yes, and that item is now approved. PH 6, this is a public hearing to reinstate and expand the Galt Mile Link service hours. Any questions regarding this? Okay, would someone like to, what is this? Is this a
This would just
motion?
be a public hearing, so I don't believe there's any action that's needed, just to.
Do I hear a motion to
think-
establish a public hearing?
No, this was a public hearing, and there's no action that's requested, so I think if you didn't receive any public comment cards, you can just move on to the next.
Received no
item.
comment cards.
Is that procedurally?
So what do we do?
Just move on? Public hearing. Yep, just move on.
Okay.
Does that mean we
Move to close public
we
hearing?
vote on it? Yeah.
When we
You can
move, when we
close the
move
public
to-
hearing if you want, and then move on to.
Why don't we do that? Do I hear a motion to close
Moved.
public hearing?
Second.
Vice Mayor Sorensen?
Yes.
Commissioner Moritas? Commissioner Glassman?
Yes.
Commissioner McKenzie? Mayor Trentalis?
Yes, so public hearing is now closed.
Now it comes back in front of you as a resolution in the next item.
Okay.
Hoping we were voting on it.
R11, resolution to reinstate and expand the Galt Ocean Mile. Why did you do it this way? Anyway, the Galt Mile Link service hours and expand the service hours for the Beach Link, the Downtown Link, the Las Olas Link, the Neighborhood Link. Someone like to introduce the resolution?
Introduced.
Any questions? There being none, please call the roll.
A resolution of the City Commission of the City of Fort Lauderdale, Florida, to reinstate and expand the Galt Mile Link service hours and expand the service hours for the Beach Link, Downtown Link, Las Olas Link, and Neighborhood Link, and providing for an effective date. Vice Mayor Sorensen?
Yes.
Commissioner Moritas?
Yes.
Commissioner Glassman?
Yes.
Commissioner McKenzie?
Yes.
Mayor Trentalis?
Yes. So R11 is approved. So OFR1, this is an ordinance of first reading. It's a quasi judicial ordinance vacating a 10-foot wide by 124-foot long portion of an alley located at north of Southeast 8th Street and east of Southeast 4th Avenue, south of Southeast 7th Street, and west of South Federal Highway. Anyone wishing to speak must be sworn in, and the commission will announce any site visits, communications, or expert opinions received and make them a part of the record. We have any communications, Mr. Shine? I didn't think so. Commissioner Moritas?
Okay, so no on this. I have some for OSR1, but not OFR1. Is that
Yeah.
Mr. Shine? Yeah. Okay, so I guess no.
This would be
Commissioner
related.
McKenzie? Any disclosures? I did not have any on this. Commissioner Glass?
None.
None.
None, okay. Mr. Shine is the only one who has signed up to speak. Do I hear a motion to close public hearing?
Moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Please call the roll.
Vice Mayor Sorensen?
Yes.
Commissioner Moritas?
Yes.
Commissioner Glassman?
Yes.
Commissioner McKenzie?
Yes.
Mayor Trentalis?
Yes, and OFR 1 is now approved on first reading.
That was the.
Oh, excuse me, that was just for the motion to close, I'm sorry. Do I hear, someone like to introduce the?
Introduced.
Getting a little punchy here.
Yeah, me too.
An ordinance vacating that certain 10-foot wide platted alley adjacent to lots 3 and 6, Fisher Division Lot 1, Block 58, according to the plat thereof, recorded in Plat Book 1 at page 34 of the Public Records of Dade County, Florida, less that portion taken for State Road 5 widening located north of Southeast 8th Avenue, south of Southeast 7th Street, west of South Federal Highway, and east of Southeast 4th Avenue, all said lands situated, lying, and being in the city of Fort Lauderdale, Broward County, Florida, providing for severability, providing for conflicts, and providing for an effective date. Vice Mayor Sorensen?
Yes.
Commissioner Moritas?
Yes.
Commissioner Glassman?
Yes.
Commissioner McKenzie?
Yes.
Mayor Trentalis?
Yes, and now OFR1 is now approved on first reading. So OSR1 on second reading, an ordinance amending ordinance C-21-37 vacating the right-of-way identified as a 40-foot wide by 125-foot long portion of Northeast 5th Terrace between north of Northeast 6th Street and south of Northeast 7th Street to revise conditions of approval. Only one person is signed up to speak. That's Mr. Shine. And this is not a quasi-judicial ordinance, so someone like to introduce the ordinance?
Introduced.
An ordinance amending ordinance number C-21-37 of the City of Fort Lauderdale, Florida, vacating a portion of Northeast 5th Terrace, 40-foot right-of-way lying west of lots 32 through 36, Block 313, and lying east of lots 13 through 17, Block 314, Progresso, according to the plat thereof as recorded in Plat Book 2, page 18 of the Public Records, Dade County, Florida, located north of Northeast 6th Street, south of Northeast 7th Street, east of Northeast 5th Avenue, and west of Federal Highway, all said lands situate, lying, and being in the city of Fort Lauderdale, Broward County, Florida, to remove and replace Exhibit B entitled Conditions of Approval, case number UPD-V21001, attached thereto and incorporated therein. Vice Mayor Sorensen?
Yes.
Commissioner Moritas?
Yes.
Commissioner Glassman?
Yes.
Commissioner McKenzie?
Yes.
Mayor Trentalis?
Yes, and OSR1 is now approved on second reading. Now the good stuff. So I'm about to read a series of items regarding the budget. There are 8 items, and each will require a commission vote, and we'll address each one separately. The first one is Budget 1. By the way, I have no one signed up to speak on any of these items. Is there anyone wishing to speak on any of the items of Budget 1 through 7? Okay. This is Budget 1, a resolution setting the fiscal year 2023 proposed millage rate and debt service rate for the city of Fort Lauderdale, setting the millage rate for the Sunrise Key Neighborhood Improvement District and acknowledging the receipt of the city manager's budget message and proposed budget. Someone like to introduce the resolution?
Introduced.
Been introduced. Any questions? Anybody here from Sunrise Key? Did you ever straighten out that issue with regard to the use of the money? Remember they asked about whether they can expand the use of the money? Sunrise Key, they wanted to do something with their money.
We had a meeting with them, and we are going to advise them, now that we have more clarity as to what they're looking for, we'll advise as what we think is the best process for them.
Okay. Please call the roll.
A resolution to the City Commission of the City of Fort Lauderdale, Florida, acknowledging receipt of the city manager's budget message, estimates, and recommendations, together with the proposed budget for fiscal year 2023, setting the proposed millage rate and debt service rate for the City of Fort Lauderdale, setting the millage rate for the Sunrise Key Neighborhood Improvement District, and authorizing the city manager to compute the rollback rate and execute all appropriate instruments in order to advise the Broward County property appraiser of the proposed millage rates and rollback rate. Vice Mayor Sorensen?
Yes.
Commissioner Moritas?
Yes.
Commissioner Glassman?
Yes.
Commissioner McKenzie?
Yes.
Mayor Trentalis?
Yes, and Budget 1 is now approved. Budget 2, this is motion setting the public hearing dates to consider the proposed fiscal year 2023 millage rate and budget for the city of Fort Lauderdale and Sunrise Key Neighborhood Improvement District. No one has signed up to speak. Someone like to move to set a public hearing?
Moved.
Second.
Please call the roll.
Vice Mayor Sorensen.
Yes.
Commissioner Moritas. Commissioner Glassman.
Yes.
Commissioner McKenzie.
Yes.
Mayor Trentalis.
Yes. Budget 3, a motion.
Actually, on that item, we need to say the date specifically on the record.
Do I have to? So what are the dates?
I'm going to get them for you right now.
September 6th and September 12th.
What are they?
September 6th and September 12th.
So whoever moved that item, do you accept the friendly amendment of September 6th and September 12th?
At 5:01 or thereafter.
Okay. Let's recall the vote.
Vice Mayor Sorensen.
Yes.
Commissioner Moritas.
Yes.
Commissioner Glassman.
Yes.
Commissioner McKenzie.
Yes.
Mayor
as amended.
Mayor Trentalis.
Yes, as amended. Budget 3, a motion setting the proposed fiscal year 2023 non-ad valorem assessment rate and public hearing date for the Lauderdale Isles Water Management District tentative budget. What dates do we want there? 6 and 12 again?
I'm just pulling it up to confirm. That's correct. September 12th at 5:01.
December 12th. at
September
5:01.
12th, 5:01 p.m.
Okay. Someone like to move the item?
Moved.
It's been moved. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Please call the roll.
Vice Mayor Sorensen.
Yes.
Commissioner Moritas.
Yes.
Commissioner Glassman.
Yes.
Commissioner McKenzie. Mayor Trentalis.
Yes. And that item is now approved. Budget 4, a motion establishing a public hearing date for the proposed fiscal year 2023 non-ad valorem assessment nuisance abatement. What date will that be?
That will be September 12th, 5:01 p.m.
September 12th, 5:01 p.m. Someone like to move the
Moved.
item? Do I hear a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Please call the roll.
Vice Mayor Sorensen.
Yes.
Commissioner Moritas.
Yes.
Commissioner Glassman.
Yes.
Commissioner McKenzie. Mayor Trentalis.
Yes, and that item is now approved. Budget 5, preliminary rate resolution for the fire assessment establishing the estimated fiscal year 2023 non-ad valorem assessment rate and authorizing a public hearing on September 12th, 2022. Someone like to introduce the resolution?
Introduced.
Been introduced. No one signed up to speak. Please call the roll.
A resolution of the City Commission of the City of Fort Lauderdale, Florida, relating to the provision of fire services, facilities, and programs in the City of Fort Lauderdale, Florida, establishing the estimated assessment rate for fire assessments for the fiscal year beginning October 1, 2022, directing the preparation of an assessment roll, authorizing a public hearing, and directing the provision of notice thereof, providing for conflicts, providing for severability, and providing an effective date. Vice Mayor Sorensen.
Yes.
Commissioner Moritas.
Yes.
Commissioner Glassman.
Yes.
Commissioner McKenzie. Mayor Trentalis.
Yes. Budget 6, preliminary rate resolution for the beach business improvement assessment establishing the estimated fiscal year 2023 non-ad valorem assessment rate and authorizing a public hearing on September 12th, 2022. Someone like to introduce the resolution?
Introduced.
Please call the roll.
A resolution of the City Commission of the City of Fort Lauderdale, Florida, relating to the provision of beach business improvement services in certain portions of the beach area located within the City of Fort Lauderdale, Florida, more specifically described here, and establishing the estimated assessment rate for the beach business improvement assessment for the fiscal year beginning October 1, 2022, directing the preparation of an assessment roll, authorizing a public hearing, and directing the provision of notice thereof, providing for rescission of conflicting provisions, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date. Vice Mayor Sorensen.
Yes.
Commissioner Moritas.
Yes.
Commissioner Glassman.
Yes.
Commissioner McKenzie.
Yes.
Mayor Trentalis.
Yes, and Budget 6 is now approved. Budget 7, a preliminary rate resolution for the fiscal year 2023 non-ad valorem assessment for utility undergrounding and authorizing a public hearing on September 12th, 2022. Someone like to introduce the resolution?
Introduced.
A resolution of the City Commission of the City of Fort Lauderdale, Florida, relating to the provision of the underground utility line facilities in the Los Alamos neighborhood, imposing underground utility line assessments against assessed property located in the City of Fort Lauderdale, Florida, approving the assessment roll, authorizing a public hearing, and directing the provision of notice thereof, and providing an effective date. Vice Mayor Sorensen?
Yes.
Commissioner Moritas? Commissioner Glassman?
Yes.
Commissioner McKenzie? Mayor Trentalles?
Yes, and Budget 7 is now approved. And lastly, Budget 8, preliminary annual assessment resolution for the stormwater assessment and initiating the process for imposing the fiscal year 2023 non-ad valorem assessment and authorizing a public hearing on September 12th, 2022. Would someone like to introduce the resolution?
Introduced.
A resolution of the City Commission of the City of Fort Lauderdale, Florida, initiating the process for reimposition of the Stormwater Management Services Assessment in the City of Fort Lauderdale for the fiscal year beginning October 1, 2022, directing the preparation of an assessment roll, authorizing a public hearing and directing the provision of notice thereof, providing for rescission of conflicting provisions, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date. Vice Mayor Sorensen?
Yes.
Mayor,
Yes.
Commissioner Moritas? Commissioner Glassman?
Yes.
Commissioner McKenzie? Mayor Trentalles?
Yes. Now, what is this for, Chris?
The item that you just,
The item we just did.
this would deal with this setting of the stormwater assessment fee. You know, we have the stormwater assessment that gets billed now on a pervious versus in trip basis model that's blended together.
So this is to pay for all the stormwater improvement
Correct. This is what the projects that are moving forward now, the 7 projects are moving forward as a result of our stormwater rate, and then there will be projects that follow that in the future.
Okay. Do you have an add-on?
I do, Mr. Mayor. We do have one walk-on. It was walked on with the title motion approving agreement for the purchase of third-party workers' compensation administration and medical bill review services and license agreement, Corvell Enterprise Comp Incorporated, in the amount of $1,320,753. Just very briefly, we do recommend that you approve an agreement for the purchase of third-party workers' compensation administration and a license agreement with Corvell Enterprise Comp, Inc. for the initial 3-year term fixed amount of $1,320,753 and authorize the city manager to approve 2 one-year renewal options in the estimated annual amount of $440,251 for a potential 5-year total agreement amount of $2,201,255, contingent upon the appropriation of funds. At the conclusion of a competitive procurement process, Corvell was selected as the most responsive bidder. We as an organization outsource our workers' compensation insurance. The reason that this was important to bring as a walk-on is the agreement that we currently have expired on July 1st of this year, so we've been without for a couple of days. And that's why I thought that when we got to an agreement on this contract through the city attorney's office as well as the procurement department, we'd bring it forward as a walk-on and hope that you all would approve it tonight.
Why did we let it expire? I mean, it's a big number to walk on, but how did we get caught in this situation?
It is. We had a difficult time getting to an agreement. There was questions on both sides of the equation. We did the procurement process back in February, so we started this procurement well in advance of having a July expiration. We started February 22nd and started ranking firms on March 11th. Procedurally, it took until the very last minute, though, to get to an agreement that we could live with from a contract perspective.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? There being none, would someone like to move the item?
Move to approve.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Please call the roll.
Vice Mayor Sorensen?
Yes.
Commissioner Moritas?
Yes.
Commissioner Glassman?
Yes.
Commissioner McKenzie?
Yes.
Mayor Trentalles?
Yes, and that item is approved. Is there any further business of the commission?
Yeah, Mayor. Yes.
Like my hat?
I love your hat. It's fantastic. I would just like to thank our city manager, Chris Lagerbloom. This is his last city commission meeting. So I'd like to thank you for your awesome service to the city of Fort Lauderdale. We're going to miss you.
Thank you. Thank you. I know, right? Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you, Mayor.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, there is no other business of the commission tonight.
All right. Enjoy.
Have a good summer.
See you at the USS Fort Lauderdale.
Have a good summer, everyone.
Are you coming back for Barcelona?